So good evening. I would like to mention that there is no reportable action taken in closed session. So with that, we will call the regular meeting to order.
Councilmember Spokely.
Here.
Berlant.
Here.
Dowden Calvillo.
Present.
Riddell Harris. Here. And Mayor Amara.
Here. We'll stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome, everyone. I thank you all for coming. And I do want to just acknowledge a couple of people in the audience that came, or in the room here, that came tonight. And that's our new Placer County Board member for Placer County Office of Education, Renee Anaclario. And Vince Anaclario is also here, and he's our past Auburn Union School District Superintendent. So thank you for attending.
Yeah.
And I appreciate everyone, but I just wanted to acknowledge that she's brand newly appointed.
Thank you, Mayor Amara. I appreciate that you acknowledged them. Congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you. And before we start, I'd also like to make a comment about the current state of affairs in the world. Although we can do little to influence international events, Auburn has always worked for peace and friendship, and here and around the world. And it is a heartbreaking situation for those affected by the violence in Ukraine. And we on the City Council stand in solidarity with the people of Ukraine. I'd like to have a moment of silence to reflect on this unfortunate situation occurring and pray for all those affected here and abroad by this terrible turn of events. Thank you for that. And with that, we have the agenda approval. This is a time set aside for council members and or the public to ask for removal, postponement, or a change to the listed sequence of an agenda item.
Madam Mayor.
The agenda will be approved by consensus of the council. Yes.
I would like to move number 11 on the council business up to the first item of council business. So that way our members of our Economic Development Commission that are here can have that item done. And if they choose not to stay for the other items, that's okay.
Thank you. And item number 11 is a request from the Auburn Economic Development Commission to fund the first step in the branding campaign for the city and to enter into a professional services agreement with Collaboration Commons. So do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call or discussion? Anyone from the public?
Councilmember Spokely.
Yes.
Berlant.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Riddell Harris. Aye. Mayor Amara.
Yes. Thank you. That will be the first. And we'll go to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one blanket motion with a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless persons request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and separate action. Any items removed will be considered after the motion to approve the consent calendar. And again, the consent calendar has many of these items have come before us in the past. And so they're a blanket motion we'll make with many of the items. And also council has looked very closely at all these items. And again, they're considered routine in nature, but I will have our, briefly, our city manager go through each item.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, a couple of items tonight. Item number one is another on-call agreement with ClearPath Environmental of Auburn, California. The reason for this is not only to add them to kind of our stable of consultants that we can use on various things, but it actually arose because the one on-call company had a conflict. So ClearPath is, I was shocked when I found out the city wasn't using ClearPath because they probably, not only are they in Auburn, but they are probably the most used throughout the Sacramento region. Items 2 and 6 on the consent calendar have to do with ground leases out at the Auburn Airport. I will share with the council and the public that there has been one modification for one of the lease agreements for the Oxley Family Trust. In the case of consent item number 2, it simply adds the family trust as one of the signatories on the lease, and it also updates some indemnity language. Pretty standard stuff, has not changed the substance of the overall lease agreement. Item number 3 is bid authorization. This is for the helicopter parking area project. This is ready to go as far as the bid goes. So we're going to get it out and follow the overall bidding procedures to make this happen. Item number 4 is an amendment to the city's, it adopts a resolution amending the safety element of the city's general plan, which was adopted just last year by the council. This incorporates the Placer County Local Hazard Mitigation Plan, which is basically a multi-hazard plan that slides into the overall safety element for us. And then finally, item number 5 is a reclassification of a position in our admin services department and the update and recreation of a job description for accounting technician. And that's the consent calendar.
Thank you. Do I have anyone on city council that would like an item removed?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to pull item number 5, please.
Anyone else? Anyone in the public? Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that we approve the consent calendar without item number 5.
Second.
Councilmember Spokely.
Yes.
Berlant.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Riddell Harris. Aye. Mayor Amara.
Yes. So item number 5, reclassification of the general ledger accountant and accounting technician.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Nathan, just a really quick question here that might result in a change. That's why I pulled this particular item off. For the finance technician, class, under education and experience guidelines, specifically under education and training, this is on page 108 of the packet. You say equivalent to 2 years of college level coursework in accounting, bookkeeping, or a related field. I'd like to suggest that you say equivalent to 2 years of completed college level coursework in accounting, bookkeeping, or related field, so that it's clear that we're asking for completed work, not just classes that have been enrolled in. I think that's your intent, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you. That was the only question or comment that I had on this. So,
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll move adoption of the proposed classification specifications as revised to include my amendment.
I'll second.
Councilmember Spokely.
Yes.
Berlant.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Riddell Harris.
Aye.
And Mayor Amara.
Yes. Thank you. Now we'll move on to public comment. This is the time provided so that the public may speak to the council on any item not on the agenda. Please make your comments as brief as possible. The council cannot act on items not included on the agenda. However, the items will be automatically referred to staff. Council members also have the option to speak on any item not on this agenda at this time. do I have any council members that would like to say something?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I just want to make a quick announcement based on your comments starting the meeting off related to the occurrences happening in Ukraine. Based on feedback that we received by a city resident, I just got confirmation by the county, who is the facilities for the courthouse, that starting tonight, the courthouse will be lit up blue and yellow to show support for Ukraine. So
Good.
I just got a message from our county supervisor who helped facilitate that. I know you also spoke with the courts, but she said the lights should be on, and I said we are all busy in a meeting, but when we all leave, take a look. If not tonight, it should be up starting tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Anyone with from the public that would like to speak at this time? About an item not on the agenda? Okay, thank you.
Mayor Mara, I do have two public comments that were received from the public before the meeting.
Okay.
Too many screens. Okay, this first public comment was provided to the city council separately and is available in my office. If anybody wants a copy. I will note that the police department has been in conversation with this resident as well. And next I have a public comment voicemail from Mike Holmes.
Yes, this is Mike Holmes. I wanted to bring the council up to date on the effort that we've been making to get the Tevis Cup and the Western States Endurance runs both recognized officially by the state of California as the official 100-mile endurance races. And I received word from Brian Dolly's office that a Senate concurrent resolution number 73 has been printed and should go for consideration here in the very near future. So it's moving along, not as fast as some of us would like, but nevertheless, it seems to be making headway. So just wanted to report that to you and let you know that things are moving. All right. Thank you. Bye.
And that completes public comment.
Thank you. And I think our police chief is aware of the situation. And also Mike Holmes has reported before, and I'm glad he's making some progress. So, okay, the first council business moved up from item 11 is the request for the Auburn Economic Development Commission to fund the first step in the branding campaign for the city and to enter into a professional service agreement with Collaboration Commons. So,
Hi, Christine Eubank. I am a commissioner on the EDC. The issue in front of you tonight is funding for a branding campaign for the city of Auburn. Since the EDC has been tasked with tourism, we feel like we need to move it forward by creating and completing a brand for the city so that we can then push out our future marketing campaigns and that they can be cohesive throughout the city, no matter whether it's the city itself pushing something out or any of our business districts pushing things out. So we are looking at bringing in some consultants to help us solidify a brand and help us create a roadmap for going forward so that no matter who's on the commission going forward, there'll be a roadmap there to be followed and there won't be repetition of services.
Thank you. Do I have any questions from city council?
I'm one of the people, well, that's really loud today. I'm one of the council members that's on the EDC, and I was hoping you could explain that what the specific money is for, because this isn't actually for a consultant to do the brand. As far as I understand it, it's for the planning process and to have a specific consultant work with the members of the EDC to kind of bring them together around ideas and the planning for that process moving forward.
So let me probably back up a little bit, branding versus marketing. Maybe kind of a little primer for people who aren't familiar. When we talk about branding, we're talking about the overall concept for who the city is, who we are promoting that we are, not necessarily a specific campaign. One of the analogies I like to use is think of a trip to Disneyland. Whether you're in Adventureland, Tomorrowland, Fantasyland, you never forget you're at Disneyland. So they may be marketed differently, but the brand is all cohesive. So we are asking this firm to help us solidify that brand. It will not be creation of individual marketing campaigns right now. It will be solidifying the brand and giving us, again, a roadmap to work with going forward that we would be able to use to create marketing campaigns. Is that helpful?
That's good.
Councilman Berlant?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Wanted to understand a little bit of where you envision this going, or how this builds off of the Explore Auburn program that the city developed with a significant amount of money, has obviously done a lot of outreach over the years. What's changed, or what will be used to incorporate the work and really the money that we've already spent on that campaign?
So basically, the majority of the materials that were created through that ended up to be the Explore Auburn campaign, if you will, the page will be used. There were some studies that were done. Those will be utilized. So that will save us a lot of time and money there. I think what, in our opinion, happened though was there was a little cart before the horse. And we need to, again, kind of solidify things, make a more of a specific plan to go forward. There are random materials, random photographs, and some things like that that we'll probably be able to, again, utilize and or reutilize. But we want, again, a better roadmap, a little bit more clarification of what materials to use for what purposes.
Okay. And the $10,000 that you're requesting, is that already in the EDC's budget, or is this augmented beyond what was already approved?
That
in the
is
fiscal
in
year?
the budget. This
Okay.
is this fiscal year's budget.
And then I guess
already.
my last comment, which is really a question, because I didn't see it in the staff report, but you had mentioned the business districts, which obviously having the two of you both on the commission and presidents of the business districts makes a lot of sense. But I hope and assume that we will be including the Visit Placer, the Chamber of Commerce, any of the other organizations that do some of the similar work and have other campaigns and stuff like that. So I just want to make sure, I guess it is a question, is the EDC looking to incorporate some of these other groups that do their own tourism type of marketing?
It is our intent to include Visit Placer. We have representation from the majority of the districts that have working boards on the EDC already. We have representation from the chamber, from we don't have airport. I think it's 49. Yeah, the airport has a spot. They just don't have anybody fulfilling it at the moment. But I think we'll be reaching out to the people that are out in the district. If anybody's interested in attending on behalf of the airport district, they are certainly welcome. So yes, that is the intent, to kind of include all facets of the city and all the different districts.
I think that was also one of the things they were looking for, is to have, because Explore Auburn, they wanted, sorry, my microphone's a little crazy. They wanted to make it a more inclusive process where everyone had a little bit more comment, and it seemed like it was more everyone's idea together. So that way everyone could use their funding together on this common goal, rather than desperate pots of money being used in different ways and multiple messages that didn't all work together. So kind of the idea was, hey, we all have these, we're all trying to market, but we're all doing it in different ways. Why don't we all get together, market one way together, and then our money will go a lot further. So that's kind of what the thought was.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And thank you for that explanation. Obviously, my questions are just making sure that we didn't throw good money away and that we're not capitalizing on materials that are already being built, which made it clear that some of that, especially the artwork or photographs, may be able to be used. And then again, just making sure that we truly are, as you said, inclusive of Visit Placer, since they are in our backyard and that is their bailiwick of tourism. And so we want to make sure that let me rephrase that. I want to make sure that this money is being used with them as well as the chamber. I know Jackie's here tonight, but making sure that we really are all on the same page and Explore Auburn, in my opinion, and I know I'm getting into comments, so my apologies, has kind of just stopped in the last couple of years once the current or the previous, I should say, economic director moved on. And so I'm excited to see what you all come up with and what we do to brand our little city and then market it. So
Yeah, and
thank you.
again, Dan, that we're not looking to abandon any of that. We have some really good materials that are out there, but to build from those too. So
And I was going to say that would be my comment too. We did put a lot of energy into this last go around. And how long do you anticipate this first part to be?
there's a 2-day workshop.
It's a 2-year, okay. And I'm excited about it. I'm glad we're finally doing this. So good luck.
Thank you.
Do I have any other comments?
Yes,
Or would we-
I do, Madam Mayor. So I appreciate this very much. I think that it makes a lot of sense to utilize the funds this way. And I appreciate the fact that we have collaboration across the districts. Certainly would encourage someone from the airport. I really feel like, Jonathan, if you could please reach out to someone 5AC and make sure.
I think that we have Marjorie Cook is going to
Okay,
participate with
great.
us.
I just want to
So
make sure
Jonathan
it's not
has
just that
been
we're
in
going,
contact.
I want them to have a seat at the table because that's an incredibly important component. The other thing is I would encourage us to also think about the endurance capital of the world. We have marketed ourselves as that. And I think that there would be a missed opportunity not to somehow weave that in, at least to have them have a seat at the table. So I'd like to perhaps extend the invitation to someone or the chairman of the Endurance Capital of the World Committee to perhaps participate as well, or his designee. So
Yeah.
I would appreciate if you could extend that invitation.
I think we can make that happen.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do I have any questions or comments from the public? Okay. April?
April Maynard, EDC, DBA. I just wanted to mention, because I was on the EDC when Maura was here and she had started the Explore Auburn. And I still have, because I don't throw anything away, I still have the paper where she had a marketing program planned in addition to the work that she'd done to create the website and get all the photography and all that. So this is not apart from that whole plan that she just, and I think it was in 2017, 2018. And she basically had a request for proposals and didn't have enough money to attract anyone. So that was kind of a lost opportunity that long ago. And I don't know what the results were of your strategic planning workshop marathon that you had, but I just want to add that I think that this is really good timing for this, because I think a lot of work is going into bringing Auburn kind of up to better, higher levels of functioning. And that I think that what we'll have by getting on this track now with the branding and then eventually a marketing kind of roadmap, that it will tie in well to be ready to promote Auburn, to locals and to tourists and all that in a way that's really comprehensive. And the whole plan that this came out of EDC was because of all the people who had the seats on the EDC, because there is Old Town, Downtown Chamber, Highway 49, who has a seat now. And it's not an official representation, but Don Aylis just came onto the board. So there's the fairgrounds are involved. And it seemed to be, and Reese Browning's at large. And we have, I can't off the top of my head remember who the other at large seated. Oh, and Jocelyn Maddox just came on. So she also has a marketing background and the wine, the wine trails and all that. So it's really a good place to get everyone together to get a really cohesive plan for this. So because part part of the plan that I know that Maura was talking about when she was here was to get buy-in from all the different elements in the town. So there was the cohesive plan. So I think that is, the EDC provides that built in, and there's other people who can come in from other areas. But I think, and that's what we're really excited about. And Reese was a real strong advocate of this process because of his experience in building his business here. So we're excited at the energy, and there is a certain level of expertise. Christine has expertise, and Reese isn't a marketer, but he's had a lot of experience dealing with marketing and growing business and growing patronage. So we're excited that it's the right time and the right group to get it going.
Thank you, April. That will, we're hoping that it'll help Auburn immensely. Anyone else? Do I have a motion then?
Madam Mayor, I will make a motion that we approve the Auburn Economic Development Commission's request to enter into a professional services agreement and use $10,000 from their account to hire Collaborative Commons to assist the Economic Development Commissions with the first step in their comprehensive city branding campaign, and to authorize the Economic Planning Manager to sign all the documents and invite the Endurance Capital of the World Committee to the 2-day workshop.
Thank you. Was that Mount? Okay. Roll call?
Councilmember Spokley.
Yes.
Berlant.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Riddell Harris.
Aye.
And Mayor Ramara.
Yes. Thank you. That passes. That we will now go to Campus of Hope presentation, The Gathering Inn, with Keith Dietrich.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council, for the opportunity to have the gathering in here today. Whom among us doesn't think that the homeless issue is getting more complex, getting worse? The way the gathering in sees it, there are two main unmet needs that, with all the programs that Placer County has today, there's two main unmet needs, and that's why you see the camping throughout Placer County. You see it on the public spaces. Number one unmet need is that the people are out in the public spaces right now. Most, if not all of those folks, quite a few of those folks, are addicted to either alcohol and drugs. And every single bed that Placer County funds, they're all clean and sober. So if you're going to be a Martin v. Boise compliant, you have to have a eligible bed for every individual, not just a bed. It's got to meet the needs of the people out there. So we don't have what we would call come as you are beds or no barrier beds. Okay. County only has barrier beds. That's the first issue. So you've got that human tragedy that you see up in Auburn, you see on the DeWitt campus, you see in South Placer County in the creeks and the ravines by Sutter Roseville Hospital. That's not going to go away unless we do something different. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. It's not going to go away. Okay. The second issue that we have in this county is we don't have enough affordable housing. Now, that was a really pretty building that's being built on the DeWitt campus. I think it's by Mercy Housing. Very nice building. Probably less than 5% of those beds or those places of residence in there what our people qualify. They just don't have that income. So that's a big unmet need, is the housing need. So at the end of the day, what do we want as an outcome for our community? If we want to keep seeing what we see, then we should just keep doing what we're doing. But if we want to see something different, the Gathering Inn has a proposal for that. And we're calling it the Campus of Hope. I'm going to turn it over to my good friend, David Loya. He's going to run through it about 10 minutes, we were told, as fast as we can get through it. And at the end, we'll open it up for questions and answers. Thank you.
All right, so I have 10 minutes, and clearly whoever gave me that time never met me before. It takes me 10 minutes just to go talk to you about my birthday. So The Campus of Hope, right time, right size, right location. Let's go to the next slide. Some of the things, and pardon me on the font we use doesn't get translated to computers that just do not use the same font that we do. So some of it might be a little off. So one of the things you want to know is that since 2015, homelessness has increased 44%. That's not unusual. I believe Sacramento's increased about 54, 55% during that same period of time. At this rate, we're increasing about 10% every year. That's not going to go away unless we bring forth a comprehensive, holistic solution. Some of the things you want to know, again, 27% increase in families. No family should actually be in a shelter. No family should be on the street. And 26% increase in unsheltered. You see that up at the DeWitt Center. You see that in the creeks. You see that down by the parks. Next slide, please. One of the things that we want to make sure is that when you talk about the issue of homelessness, it's easy to get caught up in statistics. How much can we decrease it? It's easy to get caught up in, well, you know, those people over there. But I want to make sure that we understand here tonight who we're really talking about. Could you play that video, please?
I wasn't really living. I was just letting myself be taken over by the streets. There was just no escaping it. My name is Jason, and I'm an alcoholic. 20 years ago, I was living a good life. I had a wife and a beautiful daughter. I was working, and we had a nice little place to live here in Roseville. I didn't start off to be an alcoholic, but I let alcohol get the best of me to mask my depression. In 2007, my wife had enough of my drinking and divorced me. Basically, after that, I became a homeless drunk. Every day it was the struggle just to survive. In 2018, I found myself at the Gathering Inn. They saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. Since 2021, I've worked hard to stay sober and face my demons. The Gathering Inn helped me set my goals, find employment, and to take responsibility for my choices and my life. The best part about my recovery is that my daughter and I have reconnected. My name is Jason, and I'm a recovering alcoholic.
Gathering Inn is a people-centered, purpose-driven organization. And in doing so, we make sure we help those that suffer from alcoholism, suffer from addiction, suffer from mental illness. And we do so by creating an environment of success. And that environment can now be created on a campus of hope. We think it's the right time. In my 21 years of working with the homeless, I have never seen money follow vision like we have right now in this one-time, time-limited opportunity. The state has released $12 billion of funding targeting homelessness in housing. When it's gone, it's gone. I will assure you, every jurisdiction in this county is getting their projects what is called shovel-ready so they can access that funding. Our project is shovel-ready. In 2016, the county paid $40,000 to do a feasibility study on that land. It's 26 acres, of which we would use 16, down in the Sunset Industrial area. It has electrical, it has plumbing, it has water, and it has natural buffers. It is not in Lincoln, it is not in Rockland, it is not in Roseville, it is not in Loomis, and it is not in Auburn. Homelessness is often a health and human service that is provided by the county. Our belief is we should put it on unincorporated county land. The cost of our construction, and I know this gets to people a little bit, our entire project cost $39 million. When you look at our affordable housing part, which is basically 12 acres of 240 units of housing, each of our units are costing us $50,000 each. That's it. 120 when you add the infrastructure. far less than the $750,000 per unit Los Angeles is paying. Next, please. What we're proposing on this 16-acre site is a 3-acre emergency housing project. What we're going to do is we're going to close down the 75-bed nomadic model in South Placer that goes from church to church to church. That model was an excellent way to start a winter shelter, start to help some people, but it's not sustainable, especially due to COVID. So currently we're down to about 18 churches that host. We would like to take those 75 beds, go to a best practice of a fixed shelter, take the 100 beds out of the DeWitt Center at a 25-bed buffer, and do 200 emergency housing beds in what is called a sprung structure. We would also add to that 50 beds of what Keith was talking about, a no barrier or a come as you are. For those who are non-ambulatory, the law enforcement now has the opportunity to enforce the camping laws and bring those people who choose not to camp anymore, who cannot camp anymore, to the Campus of Hope to begin their program. We would then take the DeWitt Center facility, which is 100-bed, and do a better model, a remodel of that facility, and make it a 50 no barrier come as you are. This would allow the City of Auburn Police Department as well as the sheriff to take the non-ambulatory homeless men and women and veterans and seniors and begin to place them there. But it would be a 50-bed with a very small multi-service center. Next slide, please. Now, this is the heart, this is the backbone of the Campus of Hope. 48 units, 2-bedroom micro units of affordable housing that would serve the 47 families that we counted homeless in 2020, consisting of 144 people. Again, no family should be homeless. We will provide them affordable housing on the campus. To that, we will add a 1-bedroom micro unit of affordable, obtainable housing for individuals, 192 of them. What does this look like? It's simple. We're just going back to the future. Small 1-bedroom units. You walk in and there's your living room. Then next to the living room is your kitchenette, and there's your stackable washer and dryer, and then there's your bathroom, and then there's your bedroom. About 380 square feet. 30%, as with all of affordable housing, 30% is what they would pay. We have 114 seniors that we counted homeless in 2020 over the age of 60. Most of them are on disability. They make about $940 a month. You cannot rent a garage for $940 a month. We would charge them $282 a month. That way they have buy-in to their affordable housing. Next slide, please. Now, housing without support services does not work. Support services without housing does not work. Right now, many homeless have to scatter to find services. It is not an efficient model. Think of Kaiser Hospital. When you go to Kaiser, everything you need is on that campus. Likewise, everything a person who is dealing with mental health, addiction, needing a vocational training, trauma is available on the Campus of Hope. We start by putting the TGI offices. We then go, as you've heard me say, hard into the paint on behavioral health. If we recognize that mental illness is a serious issue, not just in this country, but obviously among the homeless, then we must recognize that as our first pillar that we build upon our housing. So we start with our doctor of psychiatric care, we bring in our therapists, we bring in our counseling, and we begin the process of guiding them down the pathway of equipping them to deal with their mental health. We then talk about our dental, our vision, our health clinics. We talk about our addiction recovery. In about 20 minutes, hundreds of thousands of people on the West Coast will be joining hands in the basement of a church in a small building, and they will join hands and they will say, keep coming back, it works. Alcoholism knows no social economic barrier. We can provide an environment of success. Our AA groups, our NA groups, our CR groups, peer-to-peer counseling, individual counseling. We start where you are at. We start where you are at. We do not look at people that are homeless as some monolithic group. We might look at you and say, this is a vacuum cleaner. Introduce yourself. We're going to begin to teach you how to take care of yourself personally and take care of the home you're about to rent. We may go to the next person and start to say, you're a little bit lighter of a touch. Let's get you into our vocational training program. You will begin to learn how to become an administrative assistant, how to become a carpenter, a framer, tie you into Sierra College or William Jessup University so you can go into our jobs training program and eventually our ready to rent program. Everything you can think of, including, by the way, one thing we were able to hone in on, and that is with pets. It's called My Dog Is My Home. So we had always imagined having pets there. Why? Because pets are good for you, mental health, physical health. But there have already been people out there that have designed a program. We will adopt and adapt that program and work with partnering people that are homeless with pets that are homeless. It's called My Dog Is My Home. It's a great program. Next slide, please. All right. So currently, our budget at the Gathering Inn is about $5 million a year that we receive providing services to homeless men, women, and families. Overall, the budget for the campus is about 11. We'll pick up about a little under $1 million of that in housing rents. If you've met my president and CEO, Keith Diederich, I think he was born to fundraise. So we're pretty confident that a Campus of Hope will be receiving a lot of additional private funding. However, we will have to access additional federal funding that is available, additional state funding that is available, and redirect or tap into additional county funding that is available. Much of this is a redirection of funding. Funding that used to be used in areas of enforcement or hospitalization or scattered site mental health care can now be centralized and utilized better. You actually save about 45% of your cost by using a centralized location versus a scattered site location. Next slide, please. All right, here is the location of it. You see the Santucci Justice Center right there. When you walk out that driveway, you walk across Industrial Boulevard, you walk up and over the railroad tracks, go out about 10 yards, you're going to fall into an 8-foot pit, which is an old sewage pond that's been sitting vacant now for a couple decades. It is owned by the county. The county owns that land. Our proposal is that we would enter into an agreement with the county to lease that land at $1 a year. It's our continued desire, be it addiction recovery or mental health or physical health or services delivery, to continue to partner with the county so we are accountable to them and they're also accountable to us as far as service delivery. You see that industrial area there. We see that and we see jobs. Now, been doing this a long time. I've had some of the pillars of our community come through my programs. But for the most part, those who are homeless are not going to be writing code for Elon Musk. But we can put widgets in boxes, and we can do admin, and we can do warehousing, and we can build, and we can frame, and that's all available in that industrial complex. And that is jobs. That is jobs. And I know what people write and read on social media, and they are wrong. They are wrong. When men and women are given the opportunity to work, when their mental health has been stabilized, when they're in recovery, they want to work. They feel good about themselves when they work. It's one of the reasons, I'm sure you've seen the video, that between all of the housing, you see the gardens, right? That's food. That's farm to fork. That's sustainable food that we would use in the cafeteria and we would use in our nutrition classes. So those individuals who are living, they can cook nutritious meals. We don't need sugar. We don't need starches, right? That is all there because putting your hands in the dirt is good for the soul. And it gives you a sense of accomplishment that I'm cooking what I grow. Sense of accomplishment. I wake up in the morning, I go down, and I pack boxes. Next slide, please. All right, play that real quick. That is the site. That is the site. And what you don't see is neighborhoods there, and what you see is open space. You see the railroad, and you see industrial. It really doesn't invade on really anything. It is the site that we are able to obtain, if the county so chooses, that is shovel ready, and it's available, and we can act on it now. I believe we need to act on it very quickly because other jurisdictions, I'm sure some of you heard about the 110 acres that Sacramento bought. Yeah, I know exactly why they bought those 110 acres, and we will be in competition with them. We're shovel ready with this site right here. Next slide, please. All right. It is the right time to act for the Campus of Hope through the Gathering Inn. We have one-time, time-limited funding. It's there. We are ahead of the curve if we act now. The better use of our taxpayer dollars. I believe Dr. Rod Oldham said we're spending about $11 to $15 million right now just on direct services. Our project is shovel ready, and you see the issue getting worse. I know you see it here in Auburn. One thing, again, I want to go back to Jason. This is the compassionate response. It is not compassionate to hand out a meal to somebody on the street. It's not compassionate to hand out a sleeping bag. It's a compassionate approach to create a pathway of success and guide people towards that. We would be Martin v. Boise compliant. We sized this to be Martin v. Boise compliant. This will allow the law enforcement officers, the sheriffs, everybody to do what they need to do. It will not happen overnight. It's going to take time, but we can do it. Unclogs the emergency rooms too, by the way, which was really difficult during COVID because homeless people, emergency rooms, that's their health care, right? We're not located near any residence, 2.4 miles, surrounded by natural barriers. And again, 45% savings by a centralized services. That's some of the money that we'll be using for our $11 million, almost $1 billion. That's a little high. $11 million to operate the Campus of Hope. That's part of our plan to have long-term funding. Next slide, please. The Gathering Inn, a quick little history. Started in 2004 under excellent gentleman by the name of Bill Boudier as a winter shelter. They purchased the Berkeley location. I'm not sure if you know where that's at. It's right on the border of two neighborhoods, Los Cerritos. Well, it's in downtown is where it's at. That's the only place they had at the time. And then they continued to grow. They were awarded in 2018 the mid-placer contract, as you know, up at the DeWitt Center. They started whole person care programs, or the interim care programs that we have up in Auburn. They established through whole person care some permanent supportive housing, 3 of them, one in Lincoln, one in Rockland, and one in Roseville. And then, of course, the highlight is the Lazarus Project merger, which, you know, they got me, and that added our 4 homes. Now, the Lazarus Project was the first organization in Placer County to provide transitional housing for men and transitional housing for women. We did that back in 1999. And then how well is the organization being ran? Well, Sutter's committed to a third interim care program. Next slide, please. One of the things we always like to highlight is that on Charity Navigator, we have a 100 out of 100 Give with Confidence score for our accountability rating in our finance. We continue also to run independent audits every year. We have an independent auditor comes in, goes through all of our books, and of course, Charity Navigator. Next slide. And rest assured that every dollar that is donated to the Gathering Inn, 87 cents of every dollar goes towards program services. That's very, very good. 8% to administration and 5 cents on fundraising. That's outstanding work. I've been doing this a long time, and I've visited a whole lot of programs out there. That's outstanding work. So that is our very quick presentation. I wish I had an hour longer. I could talk about homeless for a week, and there would still be more I would want to tell you. But we are available for questions and answers. Also, we started this about a year ago in April. And we kind of dusted off some other work that Keith and I had done in 2016 towards a campus, but the money wasn't there. The money from the federal and the states wasn't there. When you go to our website, which is thegatheringin.com/campus, you can download more information on this PDF file right there. And you can also sign up to support the Campus of Hope by going to our website and entering your name, your address, and your email. We'll send you an automatic email. Click that email. We want to make sure you are who you say you are. So all of this is available for a deeper dive. How am I doing, Amy? Questions?
Good job. So thank you, Dave, very much. A very good presentation and very right to the point. I will open it up for questions, but I just had a couple. I talked to Keith. I had some questions, but no, for either of you. So what I understand then is that right now your ask is you want the county to grant the land to you so that you can apply for grants. Is that correct?
We want the county to lease the land to the Gathering Inn so that we can work with the county to then apply for state grant funding.
Okay.
Because you've got to be shovel ready. At a minimum, you have to have a lease on the land. Some of the funding we think, however, is going to be more than that. Not only do you need the control of the land, but you may actually have to go through all the permitting process and be actually a cat in the ground on the next day. So that the state's still trying to figure out some of that funding stream and what the requirements are or not. But unless we have the land, we can't do anything.
And almost all the funding gets ran through the county. So by nature, we are partners with the county from now on.
Got it. Okay. And so one thing you didn't address was, will you have a residency requirement?
Yes. So we have proposed, and again, we can only propose. It's up to the city councils and the county to decide what they want. But we used a best practice out of Costa Mesa, who invested $40 million into housing and put a 3-year homeless residency requirement. Now, we have proposed a similar homeless residency requirement, and we said 1 year. And what that looks like is, in our proposal, is that you have to have lived here, worked here, or have family that currently resides here for 12 consecutive months prior to the day you became homeless. If not, you are not a resident here. What we then do is use our Homeward Bound program, and we would take that person, let's say they're here 3 months, law enforcement says you can't camp here anymore. They cannot stay in our shelter. We bring them in, chances are they're from Sacramento or Yuba Sutter. And we call our good friends, let's say at the Gospel Mission up at Sutter, and we say, we have Tim here. When is your next appointment? And then we will drive Tim up to his appointment for a warm handoff to make sure that he makes that appointment. He has the best opportunity. Now, why do we do that?
Go ahead.
Oh.
You're going to talk about.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you do.
No, you do.
Okay.
You do.
All right. So why do we do that? We do not do that because of NIMBYism. We do not do that because they're not from here. We do that because clinically, we know that you have the best opportunity of success when you are in your hometown neighborhood, surrounded by family and friends and connections that you've made all your life. Similar to Jason, graduated Roseville High School, worked here, lived here. He's successful because, of course, his family's passed on, but he had family here. He has friends here. So clinically, we know we send you back to your city of origin because you're going to succeed greater than if you stayed here.
Thank you. And I will open this up to questions. One last thing, though, just so we can all think about it while we're asking the questions and reserve our comments. What would you like from us, the Auburn City Council, or not like?
Well, you're doing the first thing, which is you're hearing us out, which we really do appreciate. You're the first council that we've gotten before, and I really do appreciate the leadership of the council of having us speak to you. I think at the end of the day, if we got a vote of confidence for the Campus of Hope proposal from Auburn, that you think it's a good idea and that you endorse the gathering in, working with Placer County to locate the property on the Cincinnati site, that'd be fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you. And with that, I'll open it up. I have Councilman Spokely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, David and Keith, for the presentation. I do appreciate it. What was the county's latest point in time count?
So we just had it the other day. So we don't have the numbers yet for 2022. 2021, I personally don't use those numbers because I think there were COVID impact. I think there were 713 or something of that nature. We used the 2020 count, 744.
And help me understand the Boise court ruling, because I've heard a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
So my question specifically is, if I did my math right, we're 250 emergency beds. I'm not sure that the supportive housing beds count or not when we're trying to get people off the streets and to a facility or just off the streets. Doesn't the Boise ruling say that we need to have, based on our latest point in time count, we need a bed for every head or bed for every homeless person?
Yeah. So in your entire system that you have in your county jurisdiction in Martin v. Boise, according to Dr. Robert Marbett, who was most recently homeless throughout the federal government under the previous administration, he's actually a consultant to us. So we ask him a lot of these questions too, because we do hear a lot of different things as well. He'll tell you, you've got to have a couple of things to be Martin v. Boise compliant. A bed for every head, an eligible bed for every head. Okay. People don't have to take the bed, but you have to have one more bed than the people coming into it in your entire system, right? And then the second thing you have to have is that when you're creating a new system, it has to be substantially better than what you had previously. So you have those two components are key. I don't think we have that slide with us, but we took the 744 number and ran it all the way through and then looked at the housing inventory that AMI has, the housing inventory that Stand Up Placer has, and other nonprofits that are out there. And we sized this to meet the 744 number. And we can give you more detail on that.
Perfect. How many total beds are we talking about for your proposed facility?
Yep. So on the campus of Hope, 200 clean and sober beds. Okay. Relocating the 100 up here, the 75 in South Placer, adding 25 to get to that 200. 50 no barrier beds on that site. 50 no barrier beds up at the DeWitt campus because we're going to repurpose the 100. So now you have 300 emergency housing beds. And then you have 240 units of permanent supportive housing, which totals
192 units or beds for individuals and 144 beds
for
for families.
families.
So 586 located on the campus itself, plus an additional 50.
Not counting stand-up Placer, not counting AMI, not counting some of the other folks.
But I think you mentioned that this facility would fulfill our region's obligation system-wide for a place to put people if they want to get off the streets.
Yes, as part of the larger system. We're not discounting the other beds that the other nonprofits have as well.
In your experience in working with this segment of our population, how many folks do you, or it's probably a better question for law enforcement, but how many folks are engaged out on the streets and encampments that refuse to go to anywhere, just say, nope, I'm staying right here, leave me alone?
You
What
know, I think
percentage?
that's a difficult question because I don't have a bed for those folks right now. You know, so it's a whole different conversation because we're in the camps all the time too. We're in the creeks with our staff, with pop units and all that kind of thing. I don't have anything to offer those folks. So I think the conversation changes when we do. So I don't know exactly what the answer to that is. And I don't think anybody really does.
Well, based on personal experience with a couple of trips that I took with some of our law enforcement officers, and this has been a little while ago, but the majority of the folks that we encountered while we were walking, down creeks and looking at, checking on people in encampments didn't want us anywhere near them, didn't want to go anywhere, just wanted to be left alone.
Yeah. And I think the whole dynamic changes when, if we have beds, and I hear what you're saying, but if you have beds available and you're Martin v. Boise compliant, that whole conversation can change.
Okay. Also in the presentation, David, I think you mentioned that the county did a site feasibility many years back. Do you know what that analysis was done to support? What uses for the property were they looking at back in 2014?
The uses are based on zoning.
Right.
So it's zoned for an emergency shelter with a conditional use permit. All light industrial, I believe, in the Sunset Industrial area is. That's something that the council enacted with the past Senate Bill 2, when every city and every county had to cite 3 areas where they could by right shelter. So a conditional use permit would be needed to site an emergency shelter, and a conditional use permit would be needed to site the affordable housing. The feasibility report, in essence, came back clean. There was a 0.006 of mitigation needed, but that was, I believe, on the 3rd parcel that we would not be using. There's a small bulb that forms from the Pleasant Grove Creek. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I interrupted you.
The 2 parcels that we would be using, the center and then the west, I don't believe there is any mitigation shown on that.
So when I think of site feasibility, I think of a lot more than just environmental impacts associated with the project. I was just curious if this effort back in 2014 was looking at putting a warehousing facility or a.
No, it was just a feasibility study done on the land to see if there was any potential risks that would make building on that land close to impossible. And there were none. And we do have a 20-page summary that we can send you on that also.
Okay, and so the underlying use then sounds like it's light industrial.
Yes, it is.
Light industrial, heavy truck traffic, could be light vehicle traffic. but not a lot of pedestrian traffic. I'm curious about the site selection, the proximity to railroad. I think there's a river or creek that runs
Mhm.
along one side of the property. Is that an active railroad?
So yes, the railroad goes all the way down and, yeah, all the way down Highway, Industrial Boulevard. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Again, all of these things will have to be looked at if the project moves forward, but with the transient nature and the camping that typically happens around facilities like this, that would be a concern
I see where you're
with
going.
proximity to the railroad in particular.
So what you have is, you have a thinking, let's say like up at the DeWitt Center, that here we have a facility that is a barrier facility. You cannot come in if you have alcohol or drugs in your system. And so that reason, as well as many other reasons, housing affordability, mental health, personal choice even, that they are camping outside at the DeWitt Center. Now, currently, because you do not have a no barrier bed, there is no sense of enticement of bringing them in for engagement for the first step. Certainly, if you create a no barrier bed, we know best practices around the country that many of them do accept that as when it's offered. Now, will they accept it the first time? Maybe not. Will they accept it the second time? Maybe not. Our will has to be stronger than theirs to continue to go out and engage them, but not just engagement in our traditional way of law enforcement and a mental health worker. We have to engage them in best practices ways, which is law enforcement, mental health, gathering in personnel, and those who have lived experience, who are known. Kim, who you might have seen at the Gathering for Hope, runs our clothing closet there. Every time somebody comes there, Kim almost knows every single person by name. She was there. She lived with that group. She has the ability to speak into their lives. Again, when you look at the homeless as a monolithic group, that begins your first mistake. It's based on, just like all of us, relationship. You have to go out and build that relationship. That essentially is the carrot, if you will, to offer them. Now, for the encampments that you might see out there by DeWitt Center, is you have to have more of a velvet gavel approach. The velvet gavel approach is simply our will, stronger than their will, working day in and day out with law enforcement that we're currently out there with, saying, you can't camp here anymore. You have to move along. And then if you do, we will see you tomorrow night. And you have to move along. And you get to the point when you're using social workers, when you're using our therapists that are out there, people with lived experience, law enforcement, they really end up making one of two choices. And again, we see this throughout the country. They come in because this is where they're from, or they leave because they don't want to be bothered anymore. And the word has gone out. People now know that if you're not from Placer County, you can't go there and camp. And if you do, you will be looked upon in a clinical method that cares about you enough to check up on you every night, sometimes at midnight, to make sure you're okay. So I understand you're thinking of the old way of doing things, but the old way of doing things hasn't worked since the 70s. The new way of doing things is engagement through relationship, using both the positive, which is creating an environment of success, as well as a velvet hammer touch to make sure that they know we care about them to be in this campus of hope. So having the railroad next to us actually acts as a buffer. Having the creek behind us acts as a buffer, and having the wetlands next to us acts as a buffer. The pedestrian or the transportation that you see now, people traveling, we hope will no longer be needed, because partnering with our other service agencies and the county itself, whether it's a beauty shop or barber shop that we have on staff, on site, whether it's the grocery store that we have on site.
Dave, I'm just,
Okay.
want you to wrap, no,
Okay,
just,
yeah, I'm sorry.
because we have another presentation after and we have more questions, but
Okay,
we
all of
appreciate
that
what you're saying.
we've looked at. 21 years experience, plus Dr. Robert Marvick's experience to address those issues.
Great. I have one last quick clarification. In your presentation, I thought I heard you mention that this site was a mile plus away from residential units. What did you say in your presentation?
So the closest residential unit when we drove is 2.4 miles driving. You have to drive.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, using the street versus our current facility, which is across the street.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Spokely
Mm-hmm.
and Councilman Berlant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just have a couple questions on the funding. Have you secured any of the additional funding yet? Or what I took away from the presentation is that you need the land to then be able to apply, but I just wanted to verify that. Do you have any funding that's already in the pipeline?
We have $300,000 from Flyers Energy that if the county approves the lease on the land, they have committed $300,000 to start the pre-development process. Other than that private funding, we can't go until we get the lease.
Okay. And then you had mentioned the idea or the concept of being able to redirect funds. The slide, I think, had enforcement. Is that just conceptually, or do you envision, or do you plan to see cities or counties actually reduce their enforcement spending, the county reduce services they're providing, and then redirect those dollars to the Gathering Inn?
I think that's going to be a discussion farther along down the road when we gather all together to begin to look at the potential and the possibilities. That, along with our proposal of quarterly meetings with chief of police and HHS and so forth, to make sure that we are being held accountable to all cities, the county, including the neighborhoods, to make sure we say what we do and we do what we say.
Yeah, and that's very important. And I hope as we come back that those aren't just words.
No.
Because regardless of this campus in general, what you're saying is very vital to neighborhoods.
Absolutely. We just have to get their commitment on the quarterly meetings, but we'll be there.
On your slide, you referenced city funding. You didn't mention that though in the presentation. Are you expecting or asking for any of the cities to provide funding as well?
We currently receive funding from the city of Roseville and a small amount from the city of Rockland. We would hope that would continue. And any other cities that would deem this project worthy enough for any type of funding, we would certainly welcome that.
Okay. And since the county obviously is responsible for all health and human services within the entire county and our cities, what conversations have gone on with them related to funding for mental health and some of these other services? Or is essentially the concept to take their services and put them at your location?
Currently, they do that with the Gathering Inn as it is now, probation, health and human services. We would have a conversation with Dr. Robert Oldham and Amy Ellis to map that out, see what that looks like.
But future, you haven't, those conversations haven't.
We
occurred yet
haven't
with the
had
county?
those in-depth conversations because, again, unless this project is approved and the county decides to fund it, this project goes nowhere.
Yeah, I
And
guess
it would
I'm
be
just,
premature to have those.
no, and that makes sense. I guess I'm just trying to gather from you where you are in this process. You mentioned we're the first city that's heard the presentation, but where in the conversation with the county being responsible for all of these services, where are they as far as the concept, the funding, and being on board with this partnership?
So we at the Gathering Inn started meeting. First meeting we had was Chair Wygant almost a year ago about this campus hill proposal. And then we met with every other supervisor because at the end of the day, it's a Placer County supervisor decision, right? And then during those meetings, it became quite clear to me in listening to the supervisors that they wanted us to go out and see if there was support for anything like this. So we've had about 70 meetings. We've got another one tomorrow night down in Blue Oaks throughout the county. different groups. If you go to our website, you'll see over 60 sponsors of supporters of the Gathering Ends Campus of Hope. So we're continuing that. We just had every Placer County supervisor on the site about a week and a half ago with Dr. Marba to take a look at the site and ask some in-depth questions there. So we keep meeting with everybody. We don't want to be accused of trying to hide the project or not having community meetings. It's almost like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you go out there and you have a lot of meetings, then you take a lot of shots. But if you don't have the meetings, then you take a lot of shots. So we'd rather be
It's kind of
transparent.
like the
just get
chicken
it.
before the
Yeah.
chicken or the
Yeah,
egg.
I've been
County's
asked.
telling you to talk to the cities. I'm asking you to talk to the county. So
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, because I mean, if this isn't a city of Auburn decision, but it impacts the city of Auburn.
Yeah.
So why not meet with the city council?
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
What's the status of your negotiations with the county though to lease the land?
We are trying to drum up support throughout Placer County. What we would like to see eventually is a vote at the Board of Supervisors on the Campus of Hope, up or down, ASAP. Because every day that goes by, that money is trickling through our fingers because Sacramento or somebody else is grabbing it.
But are you actively negotiating with them or do you need the Board of Supervisors to take action to then direct negotiations to begin?
So if what you mean by negotiations, meeting with county staff, then no, we're just out there meeting with the community, meeting with the supervisors, meeting with the electeds, meeting with the business community, trying to see if there's support for it. But we don't have any votes scheduled at the Board of Supervisors or anything of that nature.
Okay, thank you for that. One of the biggest concerns that I hear and have heard even with our emergency shelter is the fact that, and you've addressed some of this, but having somewhere to sleep is only one component of the issue. And one of the quality of life items that comes out of anyone in proximity of a shelter is the daily transient activities that occur, because this isn't a jail, right? They have places to go. But I'm curious, in your model, how do you ensure that residents homeless residents are staying on the campus versus walking through the industrial area, getting hit by the train, going into the 2.5 miles to a neighborhood? Again, understanding that it's not a prison, but just curious, are there measures in place that keep them there versus only allowing them a place to sleep and then they're in our shopping centers during the day?
Sure, absolutely. So one is curriculum based. Again, those who are there live there, and they have whether it's mental health or addiction or vocational training, they have a curriculum to follow. They have things to do. Everybody on there volunteers. You have some form of job to keep you busy. Downtime is bad time if you're dealing with mental illness. So we have that model throughout the country, whether it's Orange County Rescue Mission, whether it's Haven for Hope, Star of Hope, Riverview in Arkansas. We have that model. Now, they will leave the campus if they have to go to work. And if they have to go to work, either they drive or we'll use one of our vans to take them and pick them up. Or perhaps on a Sunday, they want to go to church. Well, we would use, again, one of our vans to take them to church. The transient population, again, with the homeless residency requirement, tends to go away. So if you have around 74% that are actually from this county, consistently working on that other percentage to go through our Homeward Bound program reduces that transient population. You close the front door by bringing people onto the campus that are from here. So the transient population by itself will decrease. Will it be 100%? No, there is nothing that's perfect under the sun. So, but we reduce that. We're not worried about getting hit by a train per se, because we're walled with 4 walls and a security gate, and you got to check in and out. So I don't think I might have heard of one in 21 years getting hit by a train in Roseville, maybe, but I'm not really sure on that. Going into the industrial area, sure, I understand their concerns. And if there was another piece of property that we could lease that had water, sewer, power, that had nothing behind around it, then we would certainly take a look at that land. Now, don't get me wrong, we'd still have social media light up and say, how dare you put it so far out there, right? You can't win on this. But this is the best site. So we will make sure with our own security, we will make sure with our own staff that there is not people roaming around, because there's no need for them to roam around because we have all the services here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And just to be clear, I was referencing more to the idea of daily transients. Sleep there at night and then walk into the city. It happens all the
They-
time here.
Yeah, there's no in and outs. It's a
Okay.
it's a program.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a program.
Just a couple more quick questions here. What if 200 beds is not enough? Then what? Obviously, one of the selling points, not just for probably us and our residents, but I know the other cities, is obviously the ability to enforce camping ordinances and address some of the quality of living. But if we
Mhm.
don't have a bed for every head, what was the right word? Not just a bed, but a eligible bed.
Right.
Then what? How do we get to 201, 205, 210? What if 200 is not enough?
So first you have to have a mark where you start. Our mark is the 2020 point in time count. Like any business, this is our nut to crack, right? So it's 2020 point in time count. How you make sure of that is, well, take my program, for example, before we merged. You have, and this is just the reality. So you have a certain amount of people who graduate on. They become self-sufficient. They manage their mental health. They become clean and sober. They get a good job. They have a car. They partner up with somebody in the program and they rent an apartment. So you have a percentage of the people who move on. That we're very good at that in this county. We're very good at the light touch. So every year you're going to have a percentage that moves on into community-based housing. Then the reality is you're going to have a percentage that pass on. You have 114 seniors age 60 plus whose bodies have been pretty beat up. The last year before we merged, in fact, 2 years before that, in our 4 homes, we had 3 people pass on. They died. Their bodies just gave up, but they died with a roof over their head, and they died in a home, in a place where they knew they were cared for and loved. So I'm trying. I told you a week. The reality is you close the front door through prevention. You close the front door through the homeless residency requirement. You close the front door through getting them housed in the community with rapid rehousing as quickly as possible, right? So you close that front door, and then you make sure that back door is open for those who can't obtain work, who can't obtain jobs, who can't obtain housing, that they remain stable in the community. And that's how you make sure you keep the numbers low. If we're just successful at 1% a year, we'll never reach that point. Now, beyond that, that's the best business model that we can write up.
My last question is, you explained why Cincinnati Avenue is the right location, but I'm curious, and this is kind of 2-part. One, where under SB 2 has the county zoned for a shelter? And then 2, why is it the only location that is acceptable?
So in 2018, 19, we knew that we needed a fixed shelter for the gathering in. So Health and Human Services Executive Director Jeff Brown began to go out and cite what are the potential areas. To the best of my knowledge, nothing came back. There was no other site. The site has to be for sale, right? Or willing to sell, right? That's one right there. It has to have access to water, sewer, power. And there's just been nothing out there. This site is owned by the county. It's just sitting there, and it has for quite some time. Again, the county looked, they did not find any other sites. In 2018, I've looked since 2003, when we first did after our first homeless count and our first homeless report. And it's very difficult to find sites, because the other factor is, let's be honest, nobody really wants it. Nobody says, I'll take the homeless shelter and throw in the waste treatment plant while you're at it. They just don't do that. Nobody really wants it near them. And that is why we've increased 44% in 5 years. It doesn't go away. It's the only site that has become available.
So 2 quick comments because I'm quicker than he is. Yeah. You got a better site? I'm all ears. Anybody got a better site? Let me know. To be Martin v. Boise compliant, let me know. I'll go out there tomorrow with you. Guarantee you don't have one. You don't have one. My second point is, do you really want to address the 2 main unmet issues that the county has? We don't have any beds, eligible beds for a certain population. Those are the folks that are out there camping. And the housing that's being built by Mercy and some of the other groups, and that it's great, but it's really not for our folks. So unless you build that housing, and unless you have those no-barrier beds, then we'll just keep doing what we're doing.
David Keith, thank
Yep.
you very much for answering those
Thank
questions. I'll have
you.
a couple comments.
And you're probably going to have some comments or questions here, so I'm going to move along.
Okay.
Dowden Cavallo?
Turned off my mic there. The majority of my questions have already been asked. Councilman Berlant and also Councilman Spokley had asked them. And I did have the opportunity to sit down with the 2 of you, as you well know, to discuss this particular project in depth. The only real question I have that hasn't been asked at this point is, I know that you talked about cooperation from the cities. And as we discussed, you do receive some ongoing funding from Rockland and Roseville, but Loomis, Colfax, Auburn and Lincoln, mostly Colfax, Auburn and Loomis, are so small. We don't really have a designated funding for these kinds of services. I'm wondering if there's an expectation that the cities, all of us, would participate in applying for Project Home Key funds. I know that there's all this money available at the state. You talked about the $12 billion that the state is handing out right now. Some of those are in Home Key funds. And so is there that expectation that the cities in the county would apply for those on your behalf? Because some of those you can't apply for yourself.
Yeah, so that would be the case, but then also, what a great proposal that we could put to the state if we had Placer County, the cities of Auburn, Rockland, Roseville, and Lincoln, all on record as supporting this project. I mean, that would give us a fighting chance against Mr. Steinberg.
I do have comments, Madam Mayor, that I'll reserve, but that was really the only outstanding question I had at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Riddell Harris?
I just have one question because all of my fellow council members are so good at questions. I just had a question on operational costs. I know you listed out that you'd figured out some of those and some of them you're hoping to get donations for and things like that. What are you doing to help keep the operational costs lower, I guess, besides, luckily, Don Eckert from Pioneer is here and he has some expertise and energy, and I'm sure some of the other utilities and folks who work on housing for homeless have some suggestions too. Are you working on trying to make sure that this is a very efficient project and keeping those operational costs low?
Yeah, extensive solar, we're hoping.
Okay.
On the property for one thing. Our charity navigator rating, it's 100. We keep our overhead low. Neither one of us are banking to retire in Hawaii. Let's just put it that way. So our operational costs are pretty low.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your presentation. I'm going to open this up now to the public for
Okay.
their comments. But I do want to remind the public that we will be enforcing the 3-minute public comment rule. So yeah, anyone that would like to come forward, please come forward and give us your input. We'd love it to hear it. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Pollyanna Redmond, and I live at 172 Orange Street here in Auburn. And I am a Placer County resident for over 30 years and a teacher with the Placer Union High School District for 30 years as well. And it breaks my heart to think that some of my former students might be the clients of this homeless shelter and others. But, it's real that the population of homelessness is here, and it's not going to decrease in our current economic state. I was talking to my son who lives in Seattle. He told me that homelessness in the city there has gotten to the point where people who are homed have their lives and their livelihoods impacted every day with homeless people. And so these people, although there's a residential, excuse me, requirement, these people are Placer County residents with or without houses, and it is our obligation to take care of our community. We are all suffering from our recent pandemic and different economic challenges, but the people on the margins are suffering a lot more than most of us are, and we have to keep that in mind. I think that this proposed shelter will not solve the problem, and resources will not solve the problem because this problem is intractable. However, it is within our power as a community to help ameliorate the problem. And so, in my opinion, it is the decent thing to do as community stewards to at least address this problem. And this sounds like the best game that I've heard in a long time. So I am in full support of our city acknowledging our great need as a county and moving forward as much as possible in support of this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Pollyanna.
My name's Gary Mappa. I guess I've only been a resident for 60 years, but long enough to kind of know what's going on in the neighborhood. Most of you know me as an advocate for saving salmon and steelhead, as the founder of Sarsis, or co-founder. And I'm also an advocate for the homeless. I didn't hear enough about the housing part. 240 houses. We have a housing shortage that's unbelievable. In fact, with the new Senate bill, I'm surprised we're not pushing for 3 times that, because you can do 3 units. Go with a 3-story instead of a 2-story. But I think the project really shouldn't be Campus of Hope. It should be Campus of Opportunity. These gentlemen bring us a project that's going to not only address the shortage of housing, low-income housing, but it's going to not take care of. I hate the term when people say solve homelessness. You're not going to solve it. You're going to minimize the impacts. This project is a launching pad to minimizing more impacts for the poor. A lot of times I'll call them scattered pilgrims. These people need the type of program that's in front of you tonight. I'd like to see the city encourage the county to support what's going on, and even more, encourage the other city councils and town councils to get behind this effort. If we don't take advantage of this opportunity, 3, 4, 5 years from now, we're going to still be doing the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Good evening. My name is Jason Wedge, and I build projects like this. And I just want to make sure everybody's aware. Actually, the project I'm building right now is off of Richards and 160 Visalia Village down there. And we're just on the first phase right now. And if this was approved today, doors would not be open for another, 4 to 5 years, realistically. And, because I've been, I'm a project foreman, and, this is what I do. And they take a while to get these off the ground, to build. So when they say shovel ready, I don't know exactly what that means. Does that mean equipment's going to show up the next day? There's still the permit process. There's a lot of stuff that goes into. But right now, we have an issue right now going on. I heard it mentioned that, we're looking at another 10% of homeless increasing every year. So if this started now, in 4 to 5 years, so we're talking another 40 to 50% of homelessness. What are we doing today? What are we doing tomorrow? I believe we need to really, the discussion, should be focused more on what's happening right now, what's happening in our backyards right now, and focus resources in that, not a ton of resources that's going to help us 5 years down the road. Not saying that's not a bad thing, but can we really afford for, homeless to increase another 40 to 50%? We call this hope, but could this be a false hope that we're calling? So anyways, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Hello, City Council. My name's David Hosbein. I'm a commercial real estate broker in Roseville. I specialize in multifamily housing. I live probably at that 2.4-mile radius on your map. And my question is I'm not so sure if this doesn't become a huge magnet for a massive homeless challenge. This situation has kind of put me into a direct appraisal of this most challenging issue. As we all know, California's homelessness problem has skyrocketed in the last decade, despite the funding quadrupling. I don't know the numbers, but I know it's been a lot. My sense is that the best solutions are for individual communities to be dealing with their individual homeless populations. The idea that you would take them from multiple outlying communities and put them all in one location, I think is a recipe for, could be serious problems. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, anyone else?
My name's Peter Conrad. Excuse me. I'm like in between all of these because I've been a resident for 46 years. Local business owner, local owner of a downtown building. A lot of you in the room know of me. A little later, I'll tell you something about me. As a building owner, I'm going to spend this Saturday fixing broken sprinklers and cleaning up a mess from homeless people. It's got so much better. Thank you, Chief Ryan, because they watch out for me. I mean, I'd come in the morning and have people camping in my entry, and they've been watching out for me, but and I've done ride-alongs with my son, who's a Roseville police, and it's embarrassing. I don't know how much an hour it costs for our police officers, but it's not good use of time for them to be cleaning up our streets. Something about me. In 2008, I formed my own nonprofit, and it's called Upper Hand. With that, I started serving internationally, but what I do locally since 2015 is serve dinner to our DeWitt homeless shelter. So tonight was one of my 4 nights a month that I do that. I went to El Agave, picked up 140 meals, and dropped them off at the homeless shelter. I also partner with my buddy Reese Browning, who was mentioned by April. He provides pizza. Well, I buy these from the restaurants. I'm trying to support the local restaurants twice a month, and from Royal Indian once a month. And so it's this unique balance of supporting and trying to deal with it, the aftermath, and taking care of these people. So what I did pre-COVID is I would sit down with a table and I wanted to meet 3 new people because I heard all the surveys saying 90% of the people are local. And no kidding, some unbelievable families, it was mentioned, the grandkids of some of profound business owners in our area, and at least 90% were local homegrown. There was a few people that came down the hill from Reno or Truckee. Truckee's even in our county, but it was clearly at least 90% were local people having issues. I think on the other side of the animal shelter that we built in 2015 that cost $26.5 million, that was the proposed. I couldn't find, I just Googled tonight, couldn't find exactly what we spent on. I think it was closer to 30 million, right? It's embarrassing that we're worried about spending the same amount of money to house 300 homeless people. Nothing against animals. Is that my time? Really quick, attracting the homeless, sending them home where they came from is the solution to that. And we're not talking about building low income. We need low income. I don't know if we should have the county building it at $540, $540,000 a door. This is different. This is a program. And I love their motto, like my nonprofit, Upper Hand, was thought out. It's a hand up, not a handout. It's a transitional program, not providing low-income housing. Very different. I'm also, and those are the hats that I want you to think about. I'm honored to be the treasurer of the board for the gathering.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, not seeing anyone else. I'll open it up for discussion with the council. I would like to know what your pleasure is, and I'll start at the other end. Councilwoman Riddell Harris.
Okay, so my thoughts on the issue are that what we're doing isn't working. We're not taking care of our homeless and our mentally ill in this community. My aunt had schizophrenia and was literally, when the mental institutions were shut down, literally dropped outside with her suitcases. And if my grandparents hadn't had money, she would have been homeless. And I can't imagine just leaving people to fend for themselves. And unfortunately, the mentally ill tend to self-medicate by using drugs and alcohol because they use them to feel better. And so the fact that we would leave all of them out because we have these barrier beds is really a difficult situation for me. I appreciate that this group is trying something different, something where pets are included, because I know many homeless refuse to leave their pets, and that's a form of their therapy. That there's these no barrier beds, that there's essential services that are right there where they need them, rather than having to travel long distances when they don't have transportation. While running for office, this issue was the number one thing that I was asked about, was homelessness. And I didn't really have much to tell them, which was unfortunate. It makes sense to have this close to a higher density population, because that's where probably a large portion of those people are when they start out. It's not perfect, but it's the best solution that I've seen. And if anyone has something better, I'd be open to hearing it. But I love that we have these individuals who are taking a chance, and they're really hardworking, finding the funding, finding something new to solve this problem, because what we've been doing isn't working. And that's my thoughts on that.
And just sum it up, would you be supportive of a letter or a vote of confidence? Is
Yes,
that what
I would
heard
be
you
supportive
saying? Okay. Councilwoman Dowden-Cavill.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. First of all, I applaud your efforts. You know, the Gathering Inn has taken this issue head on, and it is a very difficult issue. I agree with Councilwoman Riddell Harris that the time is now to deal with this situation. This is not a perfect solution, but I believe that it is the right solution at the right time. Auburn has, we certainly don't have a shelter here in the city limits, but there is one out in North Auburn. I know that we experienced some trickle down from those folks. They come into Auburn. So we are serving in that facility. We are certainly serving individuals from other parts of the county. No doubt in my mind. I appreciate the fact that you're looking to change the shelter that's out at North Auburn to a non-barrier shelter, because that would allow us to implement the Martin v. Boise decision, which is to get folks out of the camps. one of the issues that I've heard quite a bit from constituents is the concern they have with regards to homeless in the canyon and what kind of a fire risk that poses. And that's a risk that's unique to the city of Auburn, Colfax too, to some degree, but I don't know what their extent is for homeless. But that's a real issue for us, is that they're in the canyon, and right now there's very little we can do. I think that the city has done all that it can with regards to outreach and trying to ensure that these individuals have services, but we can't remove them. And having that non-barrier opportunity in North Auburn, I think will allow us to do that. And that's incredibly important, not only from a human perspective, but for the fire risk as well. I appreciate the amount of money that is behind this project with regards to fundraising and things of that nature. This is a great site. It's not in the city of Auburn, of course, it's in the unincorporated part, but I appreciate where it's located with regards to the industrial area, the potential for jobs. We've talked about that. And really, focusing on the person as a whole and providing those treatment, providing training, and getting them in and out, and so that they are able to be, successful individuals for our community and to give back. I am in strong support of the residency requirement, and I appreciate that. That's great. I know Sacramento is looking to implement that for their particular proposal. So that's very important as well. It sounds like you've done a lot of community outreach. I know that there are others that are hoping that you'll continue to do more, because that is very important. I know that you've come to Auburn on a couple of different occasions, different forums, meddlers and so forth. And so, and I'm glad to hear that this meeting is on Zoom. So hopefully we have an audience that's having the opportunity to hear the proposal as well. But you're right. Right now, we've got that 39, no, actually not 39, we've got $12 billion the state is giving out. And so I'm hoping that we can move forward sooner rather than later, because I don't want those monies to disappear. This is a huge issue for the state overall. And so we do need to do something. There are monies available. And, I'm very much in support of this project in concept. I know that you need to go before the Board of Supervisors. That's really the issue. The city council can give a vote of confidence. We can give a vote of support, but ultimately the decision will lie with the Board of Supervisors, because they're the ones that are going to determine whether or not to lease the property that you have discovered at that $1 a year lease that you need. So I didn't ask about what your calendar was to go before them. I'm sure that you're trying to solicit enough supports before you go to them, but really that's where the action needs to happen. But I am supportive of this concept, and I'm very grateful that you have stepped up to address this issue. And I look forward to helping in any way that I possibly can.
Councilman Berlant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will just echo the comments that both my colleagues have already mentioned. This is a really strong concept. There are some things that I think still need to be answered. And the biggest one I think that was just referenced is we are not the deciding body. It really is the Board of Supervisors. I will note to both of you that I personally have had conversations with at least 2 of our Board of Supervisors, encouraging them to support the concept. But I think for me, at least, that I would share with you is I am not going to take a stand to endorse or support a single location that is not within our jurisdiction. I don't think that I would appreciate if Roseville voted to support something within our city limits, understanding that this is not within their city limits. This is in the outside area. And so I won't comment on the benefits that location has, because I think that you have done a very good job of describing and explaining why that location is the only and best location. And Keith, to your point, I don't have another location, and I've never heard of another location. So my reason for not saying I will support us with a resolution that specifically says Cincinnati Avenue is that location is merely just because, again, it is not within our jurisdiction, and I would not appreciate them doing the same. I would note to both of you and to our community, Councilmember Spokley and I have really dived into this issue, as I know everybody has. But here in the city of Auburn, we put together a transient homeless task force back in 2017. And while there are a number of things that we worked towards over the last several years, and our police department has done a good job, the root issue here of the discussion has been really about housing, has been about services, and has been about moving these individuals into careers and lifestyles that provide them the opportunities that maybe they don't have now. None of those are within the jurisdiction of the city of Auburn's responsibilities. One of the reasons that I really emphasize the questions about the county is the county has jurisdiction over all health and human services that are provided. So mental health, and a lot of these, they receive millions upon millions of dollars, and they do an amazing job at it, but it's not for us to tell them how to spend their dollars. I really encourage you to get in front of the Board of Supervisors sooner than later. I don't think, besides us and whatever reaction you get from the last two here, I think this is going to be the easiest time that you have. I think the next city councils are only going to be more challenging because, like it or not, you referenced it, it's NIMBY, not in my backyard. And to be honest with you, I don't want a homeless shelter in my backyard. But I'll be clear, and no offense to our friends from Roseville that joined us or any of the other residents of other cities, Auburn has shared more than their fair share of the burden of supporting residents that are not greater Auburn area residents. And it is our job to make sure that our residents of the greater Auburn area are provided those services. But I do think that Roseville, Rockland, Lincoln, Colfax, they need to be part of that conversation. And I say that not pointing fingers because guess what? They are. Councilmember Spokley and I also sit on the county's regional ad hoc homeless committee, where we have been working to develop a plan together to set goals and objectives that don't just meet the county's vision, don't just meet the city of Auburn's, but all of us collectively, because one of the things that, for those of you that I guess it's just Councilmember Spokley, we were here when we talked about this committee back in 2017. The issue with the county and the homeless shelter is every time they beefed up enforcement, guess where all those residents, transients, homeless went? They came here to the city of Auburn. And so the same thing, we can't shoo them down to Roseville. Roseville can't shoo them here. We as a collective county have to address it together. And so I would just point back to that effort. The plan has not yet been released because of NIMBY, to be honest with you. I think it's has been held up a bit, but I really look forward to the county's plan to get out in front of the public so that you can have input. You can see the work that we have been providing input in, because at least from, I think I speak for both of us, our perspective has been that we have to do this with the county and with our other cities, because we have to, we can't just push the problem down to the next jurisdiction. So completely support the concept, completely support you moving forward to acquire land that is needed. I personally am not going to vote for Cincinnati Avenue or any other location, but I will support any resolution or proposal that comes in front of us that supports the concept as a whole. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Spokley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be brief. I concur with my fellow Councilman Berlant here. I think there's no doubt that there's a problem in our nation as it relates to homelessness. I think that this approach seems like a very sound approach. The concept, I think, is certainly something I could get behind. There seems to be a lot of things moving forward kind of simultaneously. This ad hoc committee that Councilman Berlant and I sit on was formed to kind of set up some guardrails, if you will, some guidelines for moving forward to a solution here in the county. And at the same time, we've got a very ambitious program that's trying to go forward at the same time, almost identically timelined. We started the ad hoc committee, I guess it wasn't quite a year ago, but sounds like that's about when the Campus of Hope proposal was developed. Yes, sites are limited and they're impossible to find. The concept, however, again, that you've come up with is one that I think can do a really fantastic job dealing with this population that really needs our help. So I would agree that the concept is a good one and certainly support that. I'm not sure at this point that I can support the location that was presented to us tonight. So I'll wrap up there.
Thank you, Councilman Spokley. Well, I'd like to sum it up. First of all, I think this is just a very comprehensive plan to transition folks out of homelessness. It eliminates the issue with the Boise case. It gives our area, Auburn, Roseville, Rockland, an opportunity to help transition homeless folks. It is on an area that there's been no other areas mentioned, and it's large enough. It has water, sewer, electricity. It's shovel ready, and it's managed by a group that has experience. And more importantly, it has the guru of homelessness watching this project, Marbet. And then I want to add that this location corresponds with the population of Placer County, where the location. We have a homeless shelter here, which is a 100-bed unit now, will be down to 50 and no barrier. And that corresponds with the population up here. Many of the services are down there. It's the location serves many opportunities. And again, Placer County relocated our courts down to Roseville area because of the population. And now we're getting pushback over this. I'm confused. I was on the board with Right Hand of Auburn with Father Mike Carroll when they started the whole shelter. There was nothing in Auburn, and that was the battle. That the supervisors were faced with a very difficult position, and it was very controversial, and it was very political, but they did the right thing. And we here in Auburn represent Auburn. We have to step forward. We have to take a position and say, this is a program that is out there ready to go. There's no other location. It'll help Auburn. And if we don't, it's not going to happen. It's going to be more of the same. So I would like to convince my fellow councilmen that we have a unified letter supporting this project at its current proposed location. If there's another location, we'll support that. But right now, that's the location that they have to apply with grants. So I don't know if I can do that, but I mean, I'd like to be able to have a unified letter. I don't know if you want.
Maybe what we can do, Madam Mayor, is, respectfully, I don't know if we're planning to take action on this item tonight because we talked about the noticing,
Well,
but if we could come back with a resolution that's supportive, again, we talk about concept. I would like to absolutely see us unanimous in whatever action we take. And if that means that we have to say we're supportive in concept, or we have to create the language. So I'm almost suggesting that if we can come back, craft some language so that we can all sign on to it. I think that that's going to be much more effective for the gathering in, to have a unanimous vote rather than a splintered vote.
I understand that, but before we go there, and
Mhm.
I respect that, and that's where I was going. Before we go there, is there any opportunity for any sort of leeway here, or would you? I'd like to hear from the two of you. Do we have? Is that something you'd like to do? Is come back with some language that kind of gives your current position, or would you reconsider? Because we'll give direction tonight. And if it comes back, then that's the direction we have.
So my opinion is very similar to Councilman Berlant's. This is a important project that's being proposed in unincorporated Placer County, and I've not even had a chance to talk to my supervisors that this would fall in their district. So at this time tonight, I'm not ready to make that affirmative recommendation for this location.
Yeah.
Again, concept is fantastic and
Mhm.
fully support that.
Okay.
And I would hope that our letter of recommendation, our resolution, that this endorsement that is needed to help kind of convince the county to enter into this lease agreement and to do this partnership doesn't need to spell out the specific location. It's been very well said, there is
Mhm.
only one location.
Mhm.
I'm just saying that I personally do not feel comfortable
Mhm.
endorsing a location that's not within our jurisdiction.
And I agree with you, Councilman Berlant. I actually understand that, and that's, and I can support that. That's why I'm thinking that I would also feel comfortable if we could craft some language that says we fully endorse this concept. We all kind of know what we're talking about anyway. We can get a unanimous vote, and you can take that, we can work behind the scenes however we feel most appropriate, dealing with supervisors and so forth. But I just think it would be important for us to be unanimous. And if that means we can talk about this in concept, we can craft that language so that we all know what we're talking about, but we're not specifically approving something that's outside of our jurisdiction. You raise a very valid point with that, and I have to agree. So I'd like to be able to do that.
Okay, and I appreciate that, with the understanding that, that is the issue. And so if we're not going to take a stand on the issue, then we're not really helping solve the problem. But
It has to be very
I
carefully
certainly-
crafted so that we can be very clear that we're supporting this concept, this project, what we can spell out what they're doing. We're just not specifically stating we hereby approve the project at this location because it's
I
outside of
I
our,
understand that.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So
I have a quick
yeah,
question.
something to
So
say.
part of what Councilman Berlant's discussion of this was about the fact that the county is coming up with this other plan. Is this other magical plan going to work with this? Is it totally different than that? If you're gonna bring it up, it's hard that, if we're saying there's no other options, but there's another option, but we just can't talk about what the other option is. Are we gonna lose out on the funding if we wait for this other cohesive, we all have come together and figured out the homeless solutions
So-
thing? I'm just trying to figure out,
I
you
am
brought it
trying to
up,
cut
but
through
suddenly
your
you couldn't
sarcasm.
talk about it.
I'm trying to cut through the sarcasm though.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know what to do with, I can talk about, it's something good, but I can't talk about it. So, I don't know.
makes it tough.
It makes
Yeah.
it tough to make a decision
That's
on
the
it.
issue that the other cities have though. And that's why they're not going to support this because they're frustrated that a plan has been worked on over the last year, is not yet out, and we're already talking about a solution, but the plan is not finalized. And so you're right, it is a magical plan because none of us have seen it, right? We've seen it because we've been able to participate in the development of it, but the county has not yet released it.
we have.
And so the bigger concern that the cities have, the other cities, from what I have garnered from them, is that they think the cart is before the horse. And back to this idea of NIMBY, and I use that word, they probably wouldn't appreciate that, is that there's this concept of having a specific location before a plan that sets up goals and objectives beyond just what this concept tonight would address. That plan hasn't been released. And I think your words of it is a magical plan because none of us have seen it. I had just asked Councilmember Spokley of if he knew when they had planned to release it. My assumption is that they would be finalizing it any day now, but I would have said that probably 2 months ago as well. I'm not against supporting the concept. I don't think that the county's plan changes the concept. I think the concept addresses many of the objectives of the plan. The problem is though, again, from those other counties' perspectives, and even for you and for everyone in this public, nobody's been able to see the plan, have input into the plan. And so how do we know that all the objectives of what this plan says, and again, versus input, meets the concept? I don't think for me that changes my support of their concept. I 100% support it. And I do think I would argue to you, Madam Mayor, nicely, not here, that I think that there are things that we can do as a council beyond the symbolism of a resolution that I think council members are already doing to support the concept and to get them the approval that they need. But being a little bit more delicate with those that are a little bit tighter directly impacted, meaning the 3 cities that this abuts, because it's not us. And again, I point out, and I pointed out to them, and I'll tell all of you, I made it very clear to them that none of them came up with a better solution for the emergency shelter in their backyard. We did it. And in fact, this council put money to providing services that are the county's responsibility. So I just share that as well, that I'm not against the concept, and I don't think that that changes with not being able to vote on, and I'm not hearing it tonight, having support to have the location. Like Councilman Down Calvillo said, I think you still have a resolution and support if that's where this council goes. It says, look, they're behind the idea, and here we already have the location laid out, and I think the county already knows that.
I'm just,
Okay, so-
I'm just concerned that this is that the counties may drag this out to a point that we don't actually get any of the funding. There's a time limit on this, and if we wait till we get something perfect. It's never gonna.
I do not disagree at all. I 100% think that the funding and the timing of getting the funding is critical.
Yes,
as you mentioned,
absolutely.
We've never been in this situation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think, do you have enough for direction?
Yes, are you clear as mud, Mr. City Manager?
More than enough.
Lots of notes.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you'll bring it back in 2 weeks?
We'll bring it back in 2 weeks, and actually we'll put Mr. Loy on maybe a tighter timeline than this evening. But yeah, no, why don't you let staff take a crack at the idea of something that supports the concept, the collaborations that's needed, working with the county, all those things. So let's.
Thank you.
We'll do our best.
We want meat and potatoes in the resolution. I mean,
Got it.
you know,
Thank you. And thank you, Campus of Hope.
yes.
And Dave. So the next, do you need a, okay, so I will take a 5-minute break. So we'll be back, actually 8 minutes, 7:15.
I know. Okay. That's pretty good. Good thing we get to play this thing back.
This one's pretty straightforward. Green Roseville's not as controversial, certainly,
10 minutes.
or
You
as
got 10
sensitive.
minutes.
Well,
Yeah.
we can make it.
You know,
I'm certain that the public comment won't be there. There may be one, but not certainly that level.
that item is being watched in all the other communities.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, one of the things I always try
It's funny because I'm texting, because working for Roseville, sitting in all those council meetings, I like all that fun. It's the, just move that one. Trying to display the city.
Oh,
I'll tell you what, I'll get out of the way completely. My big dome's in the way of the logo, okay. No, but I was like, you know, they've got, you have to stage your presentation. Never pose it, never question it. Roosevelt's no different. Rocky's no different. Every city. I had a list of supporters here too, where folks that-
I think so.
I'm sure some of them are watching tonight. Can you find out? Jim Holmes and Company are logged in? Not surprised.
I'm gonna be right.
Yeah, you gotta go, come back.
Yeah, you
I'm
next
ready.
step.
I'm ready, yep. Like you said, I'm tired. I'm tired. Keep your eyes open.
Right now, I just got.
I'll just stay here.
They don't want to hear.
All right, I guess we're ready to get going. Okay, we're gonna get
Okay,
going. Okay.
So I'll call the order. Oh, look, I think I have something here.
Yeah, the gavel.
Okay. We will do, now is Pioneer Energy Green 100 Program Presentation. City Manager.
Mayor and Council, tonight we have actually two individuals from Pioneer Energy here. We have Don Eckert, who is the General Manager for Pioneer Energy, and we also have Mark Riffey, who is one of the key folks with them as far as overall business development and the marketing for Pioneer Energy. One of the things that we included in the overall city budget was the idea of consideration for going with a green power option. What I'd like to do is maybe just turn it over to Mark and have him get up and maybe introduce the concept from Pioneer Energy and what we're talking about. So why don't I just turn it over?
Thank you, John. And thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, for allowing us to come tonight and share this information with you. We're excited to present these opportunities that are available to the city of Auburn. So if we can move forward on the presentation, so Pioneer and Auburn have been partners since 2017, and in 2018, Pioneer started providing an option to customers. They can buy their power from Pioneer, Community Energy, or PG&E. Pioneer is a voting member on our board of directors. Councilmember Dowden Calvillo is currently our chairperson on the board, and Councilmember Riddell Harris is the alternate board member representing Auburn. So Auburn has a very good seat. One of the beautiful things about our board is every city has one vote. The county has one vote. So Auburn is equal to all other agencies that are our members. Pioneer is an option. Customers can choose to participate in Pioneer. It's not a mandate. It's not a requirement. In the city of Auburn, about 85% of the residents and businesses are currently enrolled in the Pioneer program. And in 2022, those customers are going to realize savings of about 6 to 10% on their generation rates as it compares to PG&E. So we'll jump ahead. So what is Green 100? That's what we're here tonight to talk about. So Green 100 is a program that was developed out of feedback from our customers. We did a survey and a lot of customers, residential and business, said we want the option to buy power that comes from 100% renewable sources. As such, Pioneer launched this program in June of 21, and we're currently seeing about a 1% participation rate. And that's about normal in the CCAs among the state of California. What that is that's residential customers that just want to improve their impact on the environment, as well as businesses. A lot of businesses and other municipalities want to make a statement as far as it comes to carbon reduction and greenhouse gas emissions avoidance. 100% of the power from the city would come from renewable sources, and those sources are varied, right? The state has definitions: small hydro, wind, solar. It's a portfolio. We go out and we buy power at the most affordable sources. And so it's a blend, shall we say, of those sources. If Auburn was to sign up their municipal accounts with Green 100, they would be the only municipal agency in Placer and El Dorado County that does that. And that would be a huge benefit, a huge item to trumpet, I guess, when we talk about economic development. I know Rachel's on the regional economic development. That'd be something that we would make sure that everybody in the region knew about. We would do that alongside of you all because it's a fantastic tool for our economic development efforts in the region. Next slide. So why would a company or why would a city want to opt up? Well, the incremental cost is really minor. It's actually 1.088 cents per kWh that you consume on top of your normal bill to be 100% renewable. You can attain the different certifications if you want to be going towards LEED certification. This is a thing that you can use on new construction as well as existing buildings if you're trying to achieve LEED certifications. And then you actually can decide, do we want to do all of our meters? Maybe there's a meter that we don't want to do with renewable. As you're adding new meters, that would be an option that's available to you. So this meter we don't want to be green on. We just want to be your traditional mix. Today, our traditional blend is about 33% renewable. The Green 100 is 100% renewable. The state of California is moving all of us towards 100% renewable in time, but today the minimum is the 33%. So next slide. The significance for Auburn. I've already touched on the fact that Auburn will be the first member agency in Pioneer that would be 100% green for all municipal facilities. However, there's over 80 cities and counties in the state of California that are already doing this. So it's not a new concept. However, in this region, it would be setting the tone for the region. As businesses are looking to escape the Bay Area, they come from that green mindset, from that renewable mindset. When they're coming out here, that's a feature that you could make them aware of as far as choosing Auburn. It gives the city council an opportunity to lead by example. Residents and businesses, of course, can make that choice on their own, but it's the city standing up and saying, we're not just telling people we should be green, we're doing it. And then demonstrating, obviously, I'm a resident. Technically, I live on the board of the city of Auburn, so I'm not officially a resident, but I am a resident of this community. And I think that's something that we could be very proud of up here. I think it's, down the hill, Roseville's not even, Roseville has their own utility. They don't do 100% renewable. I'm not sure of any other community in this actual area, whether they be a PG&E customer or not, that has signed up for this. It would allow us from the economic development standpoint to really have a strong presence amongst our peers in this whole entire region. Next slide. So what does this cost? Obviously, there is an added incremental cost. We went back and looked at the last 3 to 4 years of actual energy consumption amongst the city of Auburn facilities, and that price ranged from $15,000 to $30,000. Obviously, during the last year with COVID and a lot of reduced occupancy of buildings, those costs went down because your energy costs went down, or energy consumptions went down. As time goes on and you add more facilities, you add more electric vehicle charging stations, whatever that may be, your kWh consumption is going to go up, so that bill is going to go up. We say 15 to 30,000 because that's based on historical usage. As those numbers change, that will certainly then dictate that. Today, you have pretty close to 100 accounts that would be able to sign up for that. The last bullet there on this slide is actually the really important one. You can opt back down at any time. If for any reasons, financially driven or whatnot, you could say, we need to step it back. Now, we would hopefully be able to work together to make it such a benefit that you don't want to do that. But if the time came, we can easily do that. And that's not a complicated process. That's picking the phone up and saying, we need to opt these accounts down, and it happens. So,
I think that the city knows the chair, so.
well, yeah, if you know somebody, that's wonderful, right? So the next steps, it's very simple. What we're here to do today is ask the city council to authorize your city manager to sign up for the Green 100 program. And then we, as a staff at Pioneer, would just take the action to enroll you all. And in the next month, you'd be enrolled. Over the next month, you'd be enrolled in the Green 100 program. Moving forward, you don't have to do anything to re-enroll. It just becomes a ongoing service level. And again, like I mentioned earlier, you can always opt down to a standard rate if you ever so choose. And that concludes our presentation. I'm sorry that it went really quick. I do, but I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have.
We like quick. I'm going to go from inside out. So Councilman Berlant.
Well, I was hoping that I would go last because I only have one question that may already be asked by somebody else. But John, $25,000 to $30,000 in the big scheme of things is not a lot. However, we run a very tight budget, and we've had a lot lengthier discussions about a lot less dollars. And so I'm curious, is this budgeted? What are your thoughts as far as being able to fund this? And do we have the reserves to do this, or do we need to make reductions somewhere else?
So already we're a very smart city as far as our solar router, our wastewater treatment facility. Most of our utility costs are through our sewer. I can tell you it's already budgeted. We've put it in the grand scheme of things, realize that we will spend probably close to $4 million in our sewer. You divide that amongst the other 30 million that we will spend today in total budget and everything. The idea of somewhere in the 20s, thousands of dollars, it's not a whole lot. But even more importantly, though, he mentions the various certifications that we get under the state requires us to do smart things. This is a idea that is going to eventually come up to us. The idea that we can maybe get ahead of some of the things, climate registry with the Green Building Council on things. It just kind of, not only does it look good, it is an economic development tool because there are companies that are looking for cities that are smart. It does set us apart, and within the grand scheme, it is not a whole lot of money.
All right, thank you. That was all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Dowden Cavill.
Yes, so obviously I'm very knowledgeable with regards to our renewable rate and so forth. But I wanted to ask John, again, you were talking about our climate registry, and it's not just about doing the right thing at the right time, but there are requirements coming down from the state with regards to the city reducing our carbon footprint, so to speak. And so this gets us there, correct? I mean, it's not just about leading by example, we actually would be able to benefit from we would actually be able to use this as a means by which to comply with some of those new requirements, correct?
Correct. In the grand scheme of things, it starts with the city.
Mhm.
As we evaluate our overall carbon footprint for the city, one of the first things when you start doing your GHG inventory is they will point right at the city.
Mhm.
What are you doing? Traffic lights, street lights, our utilities. It all starts with us and then it goes out. So it does position us well, at least to check the first box on their questionnaire.
And I think that's really important is it's not just about quote unquote doing the right thing, but it checks a box that we are required to comply with as well. And so we're getting to where we need to go. So that was really the only question I had.
Okay, if I could add on to what John said, one of the things that Pioneer would do for you as an agency is on an annual basis, we would, based on your actual energy consumption and based on what our actual standard portfolio is as it relates to renewables, we can give you the pounds of CO2 avoided emissions, which equals X amount of trees and X amount of miles driven. So we would give you that data, which is actual based on our portfolio. And that changes every year. So today it might be X, tomorrow it's going to be, Y, but those are numbers that we would share with you to help with what you're trying to achieve.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilwoman Riddell Harris.
Thank you. As I understand it, when it comes to electric vehicles and charging, those credits that we get, there can be enhanced credits for all the stuff that's with our current chargers, but also when we convert all of our fleets over to electric, that we can get additional money back from the government through LCFS credits if it's renewable and it's something that you can retire. Is this something that's renewable and that these RECs get retired? Are these verified?
I
green
do not
energy?
know the answer to that question. Dawn, do you know?
Okay.
Oh, they are retirable? Okay.
Okay, so that
There you
would
go.
be another way that we could make back the money on this. And also as we switch over to using more electricity, have less of an impact on the environment. So that's cool.
Thank you. And Councilman Spokely?
This is going way quicker than the last one. You're right. Talk to you in the hallway. You're right. So obviously, I'm going to use our wastewater treatment plant as an example for this question. We generate solar power when the sun's up. When the sun's down, we're back on the grid. This program, you guys go out on the open market, buy green renewables, whatever you call them, and some percentage of your overall portfolio that you deliver power to each of your customers' houses is green.
Yeah, 33%.
So right now it's 33%. What we're saying is Auburn wants to be 100%, so you're going to charge us a penny more per kilowatt hour for that use, right?
Correct. You're going to get the net energy, right? So after your solar production, the net amount would be 100% from a 100% renewable source. Now, that being said, there's not a wire that's going to go from a solar farm to your wastewater treatment plant. It's just when we do our portfolio and we buy X amount of kilowatt hours on behalf of the city of Auburn, all of that would be dedicated or allocated from that renewable source. And so then the city of Auburn can take credit for that, to what Rachel was talking about earlier.
Luckily, we've already installed that wire from our solar array to our equipment out there. The other quick question I had was related to something and I've forgotten. So if I remember, I'll come back to it.
Yeah, well, I have a really quick follow-up. So if the standard for everybody that you purchase power for is 33% renewables, we go to 100, what does your percentage for your overall portfolio increase up to from that 33 baseline?
Well, Dawn might have the actual number.
We're probably a very small percentage of their overall portfolio because we're pretty small.
Do the math in my head. I'm sorry.
It won't even be, it won't move the needle.
3.1? If you could follow up, I would like to, even if it's a 0.001, just be curious, what
can come back to you.
does us going to 100%, that doesn't change my mind. I'm just curious how that changes the baseline.
But if we start the trend, so all the other cities
Yeah,
go.
no, yeah, totally.
We'll follow up with you. Thank you.
And Councilman Spokely. had
So
another-
this will sound like a silly question. I know the answer to it, but I just want to, this is a commodity, right? This is just something that's happening in your spreadsheets. We don't have any retrofits, any upgrades, any changes to meters, anything that has to occur at any of our facilities.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at
Thank
all.
you.
As far as you're concerned, it's going to be seamless other than the reporting aspect of it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Flipping a switch.
Uh, Do I have any questions or comments from the public? April. Oh,
April's
thumbs
just
up.
giving us the thumbs up.
Mayor
Marty,
Amara,
you want to go to bed?
I think our city clerk has somebody.
Okay.
I have somebody on Zoom who would like to make a public comment. Okay, Cheryl, you're up.
Good evening, everybody. This is Cheryl Mackey. I just have a couple of questions for Mark. I wanted to ask if the biomass, geothermal, small hydro, where do we get the biomass from? Where do we get the geothermal from? And is small hydro coming out of French Meadows, or is this just somewhere out of state we're buying this power, this energy?
Thank you for the question. So all the energy is coming from in-state that's qualified as PCC1 renewable energy, and it's going to be from a variety of sources. As Mark mentioned, we're going to whatever is the best available, cheapest price that we can get.
Well, being a Placer County resident, I'm just really curious if you are using our hydroelectric project up in French Meadows. I'm curious if you're purchasing power from them.
We are not.
Okay. So was that 1 cent more a kilowatt or 1/10 of a cent more a kilowatt?
It comes out to about 1 cent more, or on an average of about $7 to $8 per 1,000 kWh.
Okay. One last question. When you purchase power, you purchase it in advance and you pay for it. And then we sign up and we become green. We use 100% green. And then if we decide to drop out, are you going to charge people like PG&E does, a PCIA fee for the power that we purchased in advance for this certain group of people? Are you going to charge your customers that, or are you just going to
Yeah, that's a
eat
good
it?
question, and the answer is no. This is such a small portion of our portfolio that if Auburn were to 2 weeks from now decide to opt out, we're fine. It's not going to move the needle at all.
Well, I realize it's a small portion of your portfolio, but my opinion, $32,000 a year extra for us to be involved in this program is a lot. So just wanted to make that comment. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just one last comment there. What I've seen with this 100% renewable product's been around for a long time with the CCAs.
Yes.
Be any different with Pioneer, and that you're not going to see the volatility in opt-ins, opt-downs with this rate as you would, let's say, with the standard product. People that choose to do this is not really an economic reason. It's more of their personal reason on the carbon footprint, or it's a corporate directive. So we're not going to see that volatility in the participation. And that's why if somebody does decide to opt out, we're not looking at some sort of an exit fee at this time. If it becomes a bigger portion of our portfolio, we would.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl. Do I have any more input from the public? Okay, with that being said, I'd be happy to hear from the city council.
I'm ready to make a motion if we're ready for it, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
I would move that we enroll in the 100% green power for our city facilities and operations.
I'll second.
Can I make one quick comment? I just
Yes.
wanted to echo what former Mayor Mackey said, because I believe that one of the pitches of going to Pioneer was this idea, based on market value, of course, that we would be supporting power purchase locally as much as possible. And it was specifically referenced to things like biomass. I don't remember the hydro, but again, in Placer County. So understanding, there's a lot that go into marketing, purchasing, but I would hope that if this is the direction we're going, that the focus on making sure we're supporting local power would be an important one beyond just it being renewable.
And I can speak to that, Madam Mayor, that is a priority for us. And we do look at that when we talk about purchasing power. So that will continue to be a priority. That and rates. Rates are always a huge priority for us and will continue to be so. That's why we're local, because we can purchase local.
Thank you. And I do want to, our city manager.
If in the motion, if you could just be directing staff.
Oh, direct staff?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion would be to direct staff to enroll the city of Auburn in the 100% green power for our city facilities.
Very
and
good.
operations.
And
That-
I do want to thank our two representatives for Pioneer. They work very hard. They're very knowledgeable. And I think this is a very good opportunity for us to lead. So with that, do we have a roll call?
I believe it was just direction provided to staff. I don't think it needs a roll call.
So I see what you're saying. Don't make a motion, just direct. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager?
But I'm pretty sure you made a motion to direct.
I did, because I didn't get what he was trying to say. So I think we don't want a motion, but we can say that we would unanimously direct our city manager to take that action.
To receive the presentation and take that action. Thank you. Thank you.
Is that do we have to schedule it for a vote at some point? or-
We are good.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Falls within my purchasing authority.
All
And I
right.
just want to say I'm super excited because I've been wanting us to join this for a while, and I'm just really excited. We made this decision to be in the forefront of this and to be a leader in our community.
And the Sustainability Committee, which I'm on the board, is also very excited about this. too.
Fantastic.
So
Well,
thank you.
congratulations for setting the bar for the region. You guys are
Checking
off.
boxes, checking boxes.
And I hope everyone stays for the next presentation. It's an exciting, fun one. The Canyons 100K Endurance Race.
Mayor and council, of course, the most elite endurance race in the world occurs here in Auburn, California, the Western States Endurance Run. And within the other parts of the world, one of the key races is the Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc that takes place each year in Chamonix, France. It goes through a couple of countries. I think it's about 110 miles or thus. They have come up with a World Series of which they are looking to Auburn as one of the locations as part of this. Staff is currently working through and we're processing the permit for an event that will happen on April 23rd. And it will put us again on the map for being a leader in one of the premier endurance events. Tonight, I've asked the organizer locally of the Canyons 100, which will be a part of that overall series, Chaz Shea, to come here and maybe just give the council some information. I can tell you that we're working up a pretty big outreach program on it, but Chaz, why don't you take it away and tell us about, again, putting Auburn on the endurance map.
Yes, thank you, John. Thank you, Mayor and council members. As John said, the UTMB World Series was recently formed. Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc is a world leader in trail running festivals. So every year in August, over 100,000 people come to Chamonix, France and surrounding countries to celebrate trail running. So this is, there's 30 events across the globe that will be a part of this World Series. Canyons is one of them. So I am the founder and race director of Canyons. A little quick history. I will make this quick because it is past my bedtime already. But so I founded the race in 2014. It used to start and finish in Forest Hill. It has grown over the years. It became a Western States Golden Ticket race, which brought it to a higher level of prominence throughout the trail running world. Many elites come throughout the years. So 2019 was the last year when we started and finished in Forest Hill. Due to the pandemic, the Forest Service would not allow us to do, so that route, we did a double out and back. So we started in Forest Hill, we went up into National Forest lands up to Swinging Bridge. And then we came down into State Park lands to the river crossing where Western States crosses, and then back to Forest Hill. So we had to come up with a new route in order to do the event in 2021. So we changed the start to the Overlook Park in Auburn, and we finished up at China Wall. So it was a huge success with the new format. We were contacted by UTMB Group / Ironman Group, who have partnered. Ironman Group, who I'm sure you're aware of, is the world leader in triathlon and marathons. They own the Rock and Roll series. So they bought Canyons this last year and have retained me and my team to continue to operate and manage the event. So I suggested to them that we move the start to downtown Auburn and create what UTMB does in Chamonix, France, here in Auburn. Not to the 100,000 people and 20,000 runners scale
Yet.
yet, but something on the scale of, so the 3 to 5 year plan would be have 4 to 5 distances over multiple days with 3,000 runners, multiply that times 3 to 4 with family support, crew, friends, and all that. So we want to build this responsibly with help from the city agencies, fire, police, management, city works, to make sure we have a plan and also coordinate with the DBA and chamber and the Visitors Bureau to make sure we have an event that can grow and provide multiple positives for the community. So a similar sized event, and I've sent a similar economic impact report from Ironman. Salem, Oregon has a half Ironman that brings in about 2,500 runners. It's $8 million impact to the region. So we're looking on something to that effect for Auburn and the surrounding areas. So the beauty of what we have here in Auburn is that trail running basically started here, the modern day version of it. So yes, people have been running up and down trails. My ancestors in Mexico, the Tarahumara. My grandmother was from that region. But this is something really special and unique. Obviously Western States doesn't have the capacity to bring this kind of economic impact. Western States is also on the World Series. There's one other event in the United States. It is the Speed Goat race out in Utah. Some of the impacts that we're worried about with the traffic and businesses in the area not being able to have their customers come. So we've designated spots. I've already reserved the Overlook and Railhead parks for our event parking. We have shuttle companies running shuttles to the start and then shuttles from the finish up at China Wall back to the start area. The goal is to reduce the emissions so that people don't have to drive all the way out. We're providing free shuttles for support people. They want to go up all the way and get dropped off and then go to the next stop up to Forest Hill and then back. So we have been working with the chamber and with the DBA to provide like a fork guide to register businesses who want to be a part of giving our runners a discount, and in turn we promote their businesses and give them information on where to go, what your discount is. Sort of the plan is what Ironman has done in the past is put like a sticker in the window and it says, welcome athletes, come on in, and there's a guide and they can see where to go. Typically, so people will be coming into town starting on Thursday evening, afternoon to do their packet pickup. We've identified the city parking lot at the corner of East Placer and Lincoln to build our big expo and our merchandise store and vendors and sponsors On Thursday, we're going to be doing a live podcast with the local Mile 99
Oh.
crew. And then again, on Friday, all day packet pickup, music, we're talking about maybe bringing in some food trucks and things like that to really create the buzz. The plan will be to close Lincoln right near the clock tower. So that's a block from Lincoln and Lewis up to where Lincoln turns and goes to upper downtown. We'll block that off on Friday morning to build our structure and all the sound and lights and all the, the goal is to make this something elevated. And that's what the goal of the UTMB World Series is to create something special so we can showcase to the global trail running community exactly what Auburn has started and what the history of our sport is. So the Western States Trail, obviously, been working with the Endurance Capital Committee as well, to really showcase what we have here. It is something special, and fortunately UTMB and Ironman have recognized that, and hopefully with the blessing of the city, we will continue to grow this event and make it something very special for years to come.
Thank you very much. I want to say, I happened to be in Chamonix, France last year when they had the UTMB, and it was fantastic. And it does go through 3 countries, Switzerland, France, and Italy.
Correct.
And it's beyond belief what they have to go over. But anyway, I'm excited about it. One of my big pet peeves in Auburn is that we have a lot of litter and we can't even take care of our garbage. What happens when we get all these people? Do you have a little plan to help us with cleanup,
Certainly. We have, we're bringing at least I think it's a 40-yard dumpster to the expo area to all trash will be picked up. We'll have multiple receptacles for garbage. We always do cleanup post race, right? So it will be cleaner than when we got here, for sure.
Thank you. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us. So, Berlant or anybody?
I don't have any questions. I appreciate hearing that you're already having discussions with DBA and the Auburn Chamber because our
Yes.
business impacts are real, even if some of them see a positive impact from it as well. The only thing that I would encourage you, but also I think staff should note it as well, since we heard loud and clear when we talked about changing Lincoln Way to one way, the impact that it has on the residential streets that are all around the Lincoln and High downtown area. So we really need to make sure we're talking to our residents and preparing them for that closure and making sure that they know that there's just a short-term
Yes.
increase of traffic on their surface street. But other than that, sounds exciting.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly on that note. The reason why we've invited them here is we are going to start a pretty aggressive information campaign for the residents, for the businesses. We're going to put together, working with the chamber, working with Canyons, frequently asked questions that all go onto a website that we're going to blast out to everybody, minimizing the overall impacts that it's going to be for folks. So tonight is but the start.
It's checking another box. That's the theme. I know.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much for bringing this opportunity before us. Sounds very exciting. I appreciated you touching on the hot topics that we normally hear from our constituents about, parking primarily being one of those, the business interruptions. It sounds like you've thought this through, so wish you nothing but the best of luck. And I'm sure John and the rest of the city staff and our chiefs that are back there will do whatever we can to make this a successful event. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
But I heard like mile 99 is turning to mile 1.
That's what's going to happen. We're going to have we have to have a mile 1
Mile
party,
1.
Matt. Now
We'll
that
have
you
a
are
mile
a
1 party.
resident
Yeah.
in the neighborhood. I do. I'm incredibly excited about this. I also serve on the Endurance Capital of the World Committee and just so elated to hear about this project and so grateful that we have the opportunity to partner with you on this. I think that there are phenomenal opportunities as time goes on with this. And there's a couple things that city manager and I've been talking about as well. And just really incredibly grateful. And I think this is going to be wonderful. Looking forward to it. You have 2 council members that actually live on mile 99 in the neighborhood. So it'll, we can set out our chairs and watch them all go by, but just a great opportunity. And thank you so much for working with our business community. It's incredibly important. I know we have Jackie and April here, and that's, key. So thank you for that. And just looking forward to it. It's going to be phenomenal. So.
Thank you. I'd like to add that you'll have to get up pretty early to
I
watch
know.
them because
5:30.
So by
Yes.
the last runners will be through off Roby Point by like 6:45.
Yeah.
And the goal is to have the city or the street reopened
Yeah.
by 11, probably sooner, because it'll take maybe a couple hours to break down. So the impacts will be really, yes, Friday evening,
But
on
Saturday
Saturday,
morning,
we'll be out of there before there's any.
Before people are up ready to go get their coffee. But those diehards, as a trail runner myself, I'll be out there cheering them on.
Right.
I won't be running though, but I will.
We will make sure that there is no event parking in the downtown city parking lots or that area. Now, if you're dropping off a runner for 45 minutes, feel free to park in that region in the start area. But if you're a runner that's dropping your car and taking a shuttle, you're not doing that down there. So obviously they have to follow all parking regulations.
I'm going to follow suit with, this is really exciting. I think it'll be great. I did have a couple questions. I know there's a lot of local runners that are probably interested in this. Have people already signed up? If so, is there abilities for local? I know it's a huge international thing, but do local runners get an opportunity?
Yes, so we have almost 700 runners in the 100K. We have 150 in the 50K and 100 in the 25K. Of those, we have close to 300 within about a 15 to 20 minute drive.
Cool.
Roseville, Rockland, surrounding, really close. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Is on Friday, when are you going to close the road? I'm just thinking about getting to and from school and all that kind of, because people really had to go to Alta Vista in the high school. They all go cross that exact path in order to get to that location. And I just want to make sure that that's not, that we communicate it well, because if it's going to impact getting to and from school, that's an issue.
They will close it after the school commute.
Okay, just making sure.
Yep. About 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Yep.
And then, communication, like Old Town Association, 49 through the PTAs. Because if I was somebody who wasn't as engaged in these activities, and I went on a Friday and found craziness going on that I didn't know about. So as much as we can just make sure that we reach out to random community groups and not just the normal groups that happen to key into city council stuff, that would be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much for your
Yeah.
presentation.
Thank you.
And we have the city manager report. He promised he would keep it brief, but
I will.
this is an important update.
Strategic plan stuff will come back on the 14th, on March 14th. So just look for that. And for those of you who are hungry this Thursday, there are 3 people in this room that are going to be celebrity chefs for the Lions Club. And that would be myself, our city clerk, Amy Lynn, and council member Alice Dowden Calvillo. Oh, and
And the chief. Oh, no, the other chief. Both chiefs.
Both chief. No. Yes, I'll be there.
Chamber chief.
that's going to be super delicious. I will tell you, I am going to make the world's greatest comfort food. So it's like only $20 to get in. So but
I'm going to have my sister-in-law is baking her wonderful cookies that she decorates so well with Auburn Endurance Capital of the World logo.
Just one shout out. I just kind of wanted to acknowledge April with the Canyons race. April showed up, has participated in a lot of the discussions. Obviously, we want to get the DBA involved, but April's been a real asset to the whole discussion on that. So thanks to her.
And thank you very much. Would the city council members mind if we skipped our reports this time due to the late nature of this meeting? Okay, then I just want to adjourn this meeting in honor of the late Bill Wharton. He was on the Economic Development Commission from 2014 to recently. He was a regular at Medlars, and we will all miss him. So. And with that, we are adjourned. Yeah.